Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I'm Charles Pius. In the headlines, House of Representatives reversed decision on bill seeking to remove immunity for vice presidents and governors. Signature TV and Institute of Development Studies, UNN, to collaborate for community development. U.S. and Guyana to deepen energy ties as Rubio warns Venezuela against aggression. And French prosecutors seek 7 years jail for Sarkozy for taking Libyan money. Details shortly.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Southeast Caucus has called on President Bola Tinubu to immortalize the achievements and lifetime of the chairman, defunct National Electoral Commission, NEC, late Professor Humphrey Nwosu. The appeal followed a failed motion raised on Wednesday to immortalize Professor Nwosu, who conducted the annulled June 12, 1992 elections during the military era. The senator representing Abia South, Eyinaya Baribe, had earlier brought before the Senate a motion with prayers that the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) headquarters be named after the late INEC NEC chairman and to give late Humphrey Nwosu a national honor. After a fierce debate, some of the senators were of the opinion that late Professor Nwosu failed to declare the winners of the June 12, 1992 election in his entire lifetime. Hence, he did not deserve national honor.
We cannot distort history in this Senate. We must be seen to have sentiments that reflect the average feeling of the average Nigerian. Professor Nwosu, when it mattered most, his courage failed him. Does not deserve to be immortalized as one of the very few Nigerians that have done the right thing. I don't know what we are talking about. I wish Professor Nwosu a journey mercy to the external world where he will rest in perfect peace. But this Senate should quickly run away from resolving converging complexities within the historical context of the Nigeria as a nation. That people from Southwest who are accomplices in the June 12 saga, they will not be forgiven tomorrow. If any of them was brought here, I will speak against him. Therefore, this debate is unnecessary. This debate is trying to rewrite history. And we know our president now. He was a factor and he was part of those that struggled for the actualization of June 12. He worked hard for it. He worked hard for it. President Goodluck Jonathan was there. After Goodluck Jonathan, Buhari was there for 8 years. And now that Humphrey Nwosu is gone, you want President of Tinubu to name structures after Nwosu. It will not happen. We cannot distort history.
Other senators who spoke in favor of the motion maintained that the chairman of the defunct NEC did well in conducting the most credible elections in the history of Nigeria.
The struggle to revalidate that June 12 presidential election took a huge toll on Nigeria, including loss of lives. But now we have come back as a country to acknowledge that that election was the freest and ever conducted. And the president, Moshood Abiola, who was never returned, has been recognized as the winner of the election by the government of Nigeria. Thank you very much. Decorated with the highest honor, GCFR. Whereas the man who conducted the election has been left. The time is over.
The arguments, the prayers were put to voice votes by the Deputy Senate President Barau Jibril, as the first two prayers were not supported by the majority. A 1-minute silence was also observed to honor the former NEC chairman.
With national honors, those in favor say aye, those against say no, we don't have it. extend condolences to his family and recognize their sacrifice in support of his work towards a better Nigeria. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. 1 minute silence, please.
May the soul of Professor Humphrey Nwosu rest in perfect peace.
Amen. We are still looking forward to the Tinubu government. If you recall, Tinubu was seen and has always been seen as a June 12 warrior. And therefore, all the elements that make up June 12, including the conduct of the election. And like we said, if there was no election, there would have been no June 12. So we can also use this opportunity that we're here addressing you to appeal to the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to honor the man who made sure that that election held.
NEC chairman will be laid to rest today, Friday, in his hometown in Anambra State. Barely 24 hours after advancing 2 bills aimed at reviewing the death penalty law and removing immunity for the vice president, governors, and the deputy governors, the House of Representatives has reversed its decision on the proposed legislations. The resolution was announced during Thursday's plenary session by House Leader Professor Julius Ehovobere. Both bills had passed the second reading on Wednesday as part of the 42 proposed legislations considered during the session. Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu, who presided over the plenary in the absence of the Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, explained that the reversal was necessary to allow for a more in-depth debate by lawmakers. He apologized to the sponsors of these bills, saying this decision will allow the House to engage in further deliberations, given the significance of the subject matters.
1. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended to qualify the immunity conferred on the President, remove the immunity conferred on the Vice President, the governors and their deputies, in order to curb corruption, eradicate impunity, and enhance accountability in public office and for related matters, HB 1664. And the other is a bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to review the penalties for certain capital offenses in alignment with relevant international best practices and for related matters, HB 2120.
Capital punishment as well as immunity. It's something that we have to debate later on in more detailed form. And I thank you for your understanding, the sponsors of the bill. They also understood that for now, we'll keep it.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate allegations of abuse of tax incentives, breaks, and waivers by both public institutions and beneficiary companies. The decision followed a motion of public importance by Oluwole Oke from Osun State. Oke cited data showing Nigeria loses about 8 trillion naira annually to tax waivers, with 6 trillion naira lost to abuse and only 2 trillion naira achieving the government's objectives. Expressing concern over the potential economic crisis, the House mandated the committees on industry, finance and commerce to investigate and report back within 4 weeks.
That these gaps have negatively affected the tax to GDP ratio of Nigeria, which stands at 10.6%. Being one of the lowest in Africa, the gap created, Mr. Speaker, in the revenue profile of the government of the Federation has also contributed to the federal government seeking loans, grants, and aids to fund our budget deficit. Concerned thereof, that if urgent steps are not taken to investigate this situation, Mr. Speaker, Nigeria may not only be hanging on fiscal cliff, it may fall off the cliff.
The House also resolved to investigate the excessive use of explosives by Zebazet Quarry in Nigeria following a motion of urgent public importance by Tijani Ismail from Kwara State. Ismail raised concerns about structural damage caused by ground vibrations, which weaken buildings and infrastructure, posing a risk of collapse.
Continuous ground vibration from the quarry explosive have weakened buildings, infrastructures in the area, creating the potential for structural collapse, severe property damage, endangering lives. Further concern that heavy-duty truck transporting material from the quarry have deteriorated the road, leading to increased vehicular accidents, economic losses.
A bill seeking to amend the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to establish the office of the Prime Minister as head of government and the President as head of state has passed its second reading in the House of Representatives. It is one of 31 constitutional amendment bills that advanced to the second reading stage during Thursday's plenary session, presided over by Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu. Among the proposed amendments is a bill seeking to allocate specific seats for women in the National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly. Another bill aims to shorten the duration for the resolving pre-election petition cases by establishing pre-election tribunals and regulating the suspension of National Assembly members from legislative duties. Additionally, a bill seeking to revise the eligibility criteria for candidates contesting for the offices of the President, Vice President, Governor, and the Deputy Governor also passed second reading. Other amendments include the bill to review the status of the Federal Capital Territory regarding the election of the President and proposals for the creation of a one-state and Gobir state. With these developments, the total number of constitutional amendment bills that have successfully passed second reading now stands at 113. The House adjourned plenary to 29th of April 2025. The chairman of the House Committee on HIV/AIDS, Tuberculosis, Leprosy and Malaria Control, Amobi Oga, has assured that the Parliament would take decisive legislative actions to combat tuberculosis and push for increased funding and enabling laws to protect the rights of patients. Speaking at the relaunch of the Nigerian Parliamentary TB Caucus in Abuja, Oga emphasized that lawmakers must leverage their positions to strengthen Nigeria's TB response. He promised to mobilize parliamentarians to sign up for the caucus and champion policies that will enhance TB detection, treatment, and prevention.
The federal government recently announced plans to relocate 29 correctional centers across the country to new location due to urbanization of their present location and other factors. This relocation is part of a broader effort to address the challenges faced by correctional centers in the country. Among the centers slated for relocation is the ENUGU Correctional Center, presently situated near the bustling and heavily congested ENUGU Motor Park, where it shares boundaries with the ENUGU North Local Government Headquarters, the ENUGU Central Police Station, and other private and public establishments.
President Bola Tinubu on Thursday received his Ghanaian counterpart, John Mahama, at the State House in Abuja, applauding his recent visits to the three Sahel state nations. Tinubu, as chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, stressed that his diplomatic efforts aim to improve the security landscape in the Sahel region and foster economic opportunities across West Africa. Mahama was at the presidential villa to brief the ECOWAS chairman regarding his diplomatic efforts with the military junta leaders of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso aimed at addressing regional security and stability. Responding, Tinubu said his talks with the three AES were essential to safeguarding lives and fostering prosperity across the region. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has approved the nomination of 4 new members of the Governing Council of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board to fill existing vacancies and strengthen the board's capacity. A statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, ENUGU, on Thursday said that the appointments followed the exit of previous institutional representatives from the Governing Council. The approved nominees are Olusegun Omoseyi of the National Insurance Commission, Wale Ogunsanya of the Petroleum Technology Association of Nigeria, Sam Oyechi, who represents the Nigerian Content Consultative Firm, and Owe Oyabo from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. The president encouraged the new members to leverage their expertise and dedication to enhance local content development within Nigeria's oil and gas industry. The Governing Council established under the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act 2010 comprises representatives from key institutions including the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the Petroleum Technology Association of Nigeria, the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, and the Nigerian Content Consultative Forum, and the National Insurance Commission. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Committee on Reformatory Institutions is soliciting the assistance of the Enugu State Government for the smooth relocation of Enugu Correctional Center to a new site. The chairman of the committee, Chinedu Oga, made the appeal when he led members of the committee on a visit to the Enugu State Governor, Peter Amba, at the Government House, Enugu. Correspondent Chinedu reports.
The federal government recently announced plans to relocate 29 correctional centers across the country to new location due to urbanization of their present location and other factors. This relocation is part of a broader effort to address the challenges faced by correctional centers in the country. Among the centers slated for relocation is the Enugu Correctional Center, presently situated near the bustling and heavily congested Enugu Motor Park, where it shares boundaries with the Enugu North Local Government Headquarters, the Enugu Central Police Station, and other private and public establishments. The proposed permanent site for the Enugu State Correctional Center is at Amechi Dodo, located in the Nkanu East Local Government area. Leader of the delegation and chairman of the House Committee on Reformatory Institutions, Chinedu Oga, commended Governor Mba for ending the sit-at-home phenomena and other security challenges that hindered economic growth in the state. He expressed satisfaction with the governor's development initiatives and urged him to support the relocation of the correctional center and provide vehicles for transporting inmates to court.
Our duty of being here today, Your Excellency, is bound by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, amended in 1999 Constitution, that empower the governor of a state to establish, construct, build, train, and retrain an inmate. We are here because the federal government have approved the relocation of Enugu Correction Center. Because Enugu Correction Center is the heart of the town, and it's something I've been clamoring as a governor. That is why we are here to do our first site as a shrine by the order of the National Assembly that empower us to oversight and equally to see the relocation site. Your Excellency, we are here today to see most of other things we have had, we have felt the impact of your good administration. For accommodating mostly 90% of your administration are youth, and that is my constituency. And I feel the impact. Today you can pass Enugu at any time, any day, without recording any crime. It's kudos to you, Your Excellency.
Governor Mba welcomed the federal government's approval to move the correctional center out of the state's metropolis and promised to assist.
And this is something, as you also have observed, that we have been advocating, that we have to, move the prisons, as it were, to outside the city. And so I think you have a ready partner in the state. You have a partner that we have a coincidence of objective. The objective of moving the prison to a site that would also provide all the facilities the current center has, including training. And so we're going to anxiously waiting to hear from you how you want us as a state government to engage. The good news is that based on the Fifth Amendment, the states can now play in all the value chain of correctional center provision. So that is something that gives us the latitude to also include that in our budget.
The governor sought clarification on the nature and level of assistance needed for the state government in that regard. In Enugu, Chinemere Mikebunam for Signature TV News.
The ENUGU State House of Assembly has organized a public hearing on a proposed amendments to the landlord and tenancy law of the state. The hearing is seen as a bold step by the House to address the housing deficit and high rents in the state, especially as it affects low and middle income earners. Senior TV correspondent Chinemere Kimudam has a report.
Please, every agent, whether you are owner, surveyor, you're under housing, you're under everything, I think you all need to come under one body.
If we are going to add, if you are going to add in this bill, or they shall know whom your tenant is. Because if you go to somewhere like Canada, if you don't have work permit and you don't have any place you are working, no landlord will give you a house to live.
It was a gathering that gave voice to key stakeholders from Enugu State, including members of staff of the Enugu State Housing Development Corporation, estate surveyors and officers from the State Ministry of Housing. Others are legal practitioners and members of the Nigerian Bar Association, members of National Association of Nigerian Students, landlords, tenants, civil society groups, and human rights activists, among others. The proposed amendments aim to reduce sharp practices in the sector, define the role of agents, and accord recognition to estate surveyors, landlords, and tenants. The Speaker of the Enugu State House of Assembly, Uche Ugu, represented by the member of Nkanu West, Iloabuchi Aniago, emphasized the need for a uniform payment system and the amendment of agency and estate development fees.
If you say you are an agent or estate developer, you have to register with the state, pay certain sum of money to the state, and the state will be allowed that you are operating in the state. So if anything goes wrong, the state can easily get rid of you.
Chairman of the House Committee on Housing and Foreign Investment, Okemba, noted that the astronomical and unregulated increase in rent and other charges posed a serious problem to citizens of the state.
Sure that people pay so much in order to procure rent. So, and because of the agitations, around the state, and personally, the members of this honorable house, deemed it very, very necessary and important to nip this problem at the bud. We cannot allow our people to continue to suffer this magnitude of arbitrary charges because of procuring rent.
Secretary and legal advisor of the Enugu State Housing Development Corporation, Anna Ayede, said the corporation should regulate housing agency issues rather than the Ministry of Housing. He argued that as a body created by law, the corporation is better equipped to handle regulation, which would ultimately reduce fraud.
Law is something that this has assembly. And we are saying that because of the creation of law, the Federal State Mr. Speaker will create an audience to please permit any state housing development corporation empowered by law to take charge of this agency fee to regulate the avoid fraud and illegality has been committed by some agents.
Other stakeholders, including representatives from the Ministry of Housing, estate surveyors, and legal practitioners, also made presentations on the proposed bill.
I'm thinking that the 5% earmarked for agency, the 10% earmarked for the agency as recorded in the bill is much. I suggest it goes back to 5%.
To ameliorate the sufferings of the people, with respect to what they pass through, all big and high who parade themselves as estate agents. I want to let us know that the Estate Surveillance and Value Restriction Board of Nigeria is a federal agency, and it was created by a federal law known as Estate Surveillance and Value Restriction Act (CAP) E13 Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004.
So you are working for your landlord and I'm paying you. It is not done like that. If you want something to work, it has to be on the ground that everybody will treat everybody. And then you expect students to go to court with money. Where do you get that money from? To go to court to challenge your landlord. So it is not done that way. So the lawyers should be paid by landlords. They should go and settle their issues. Our own is let us come, settle the landlord. The landlord should go and settle their lawyer because clearly they are working for the landlord. So there is no point for the tenants to pay lawyers.
The discussion highlights the complexities of housing regulation and the need for effective collaboration among stakeholders to address the challenges facing the sector. The bill has undergone its first and second readings, and the public hearing marks a crucial step towards its passage. Chinemerem Ikebunam, Signature TV News.
Up ahead, research fellow Dr. Uzochukwu Amakom tasks subnationals on effective budgetary processes. Federal government declares Monday, Tuesday as public holidays. Do stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
A senior research fellow at the Institute of Development Studies of the University of Nigeria, ENUGU campus, Dr. Uzochukwu Amakom, has charged Nigerian citizens to show more interest in the annual budgets of the federal government and the subnationals. He said that the budget should represent the wishes, hopes, and aspirations of the citizens and not just annual representation of figures. Dr. Amakom spoke at the IDS Policy Engagements platform on the analysis and evaluation of budgets of the 36 states of the Federation held at the University of Nigeria, ENUGU campus. Correspondent Gone Owalo was at the event.
The Institute of Development Studies of the University of Nigeria was established in 1963, primarily for research into social, economic, and sustainable human development issues. Its main focus is to carry out research and profile solutions to some societal problems and development issues. It is in an effort to fulfill part of this mandate that the Institute organized a forum to present the findings of a comprehensive analysis of the budget of various state governments in Nigeria. It provided an opportunity for valuable insights into the fiscal priorities, challenges, and opportunities for improvement in Nigeria's subnational governments. The resource person, Dr. Uzochukwu Amakom, presented the findings of the rigorous analysis of the budget of various state governments in Nigeria, combining quantitative and qualitative data to provide a comprehensive understanding of Nigeria's fiscal landscape. Amakom said Nigerians must begin to ask questions about the monies presented in the annual budget and how they are eventually utilized.
You look at their idea of where they are going. Let's use ENUGU, for example, that says tomorrow is here. You should be able to look at the budget and see how this budget can usher in tomorrow today. Because if you can't do that, then you don't have to blame him at the end of the day if nothing is achieved.
Director of the Institute, Dr. Ben Nwusu, emphasized the importance of the budget analysis and presentation.
Often, I like to note, we focus on federal budget, that is, what allocations to the federal sectors by the presidency or from the federal level, without taking into account what is happening at the various state levels. Interestingly, we want to look at today at what the various state governments are doing, how they are allocating funds to various sectors, to see ultimately how they impinge on what we are studying here, which is development.
During the interactive session, some of the participants urged the governors to ensure full implementation of their budgets and address the needs of their citizens.
Is it possible to show a trend of states in Nigeria that seems to have done well over time in terms of education, social security, or perhaps health, so that we can actually know if there are indicators that could actually measure their performance part? Because we can't talk about development without looking at the core foundations of health education.
We are talking on 2025 budget of states across the country. Budgets are just mere estimates. I plead that we look back at the actual expenditure at the end of 2025 and see how far we have gone.
Former director of the Institute, Professor Osita Obum, charged the citizens to hold their governors accountable at all times.
But the central point is that for as long as our politics is wrong, budget and budget implementation will be wrong, development will not occur, because the budget you are discussing is a product of the political process. And no government, as far as we know, has been re-elected based on performance of the first term.
President of Signature TV, Vin Martin Irlo, thanked the organizers for the event, which he described as quite rewarding.
And I think that if those of us that are students, maybe at the master's level or PhD level, when we get exposed to experts in this area, it will help in their confidence, it will help in expanding their contact, and I commend the leadership.
The presentation not only gave an insight into the intentions of the various state governments as captured in figures, but made recommendations on how they can improve their budget processes in future in order to deliver better services to their people. In Enugu, Ugonne Owalo for Signature TV.
The management of Signature TV and Institute of Development Studies of the University of Nigeria ENUGU campus have agreed to explore areas of partnership to help bring about impactful and sustainable development. The agreement followed the visit to the new director of the institute, Dr. Ben Wosu, by the president of Signature TV, Vin Martin Obiora-Ilo. Correspondent Ugonde Walu reports.
The visit to the Institute of Development Studies of the University of Nigeria by the President and Chief Executive Officer of Signature TV, Vin Martin Obiora-Ilo, came on the sidelines of a colloquium organized by the Institute to dissect the 2025 budgets of the 36 states of the country. Ilo expressed admiration for the commitment of the Institute to evidence-based research and policy analysis, particularly in areas related to sustainable development and community empowerment. He emphasized the interest of Signature TV in collaborating with the center to amplify the impact of its studies and research outcomes in pushing community development.
The IDS has played a historical role in development in Nigeria and especially in the Southeast. And as an organization, we want to identify with IDF. Not just identifying with IDS, we also want to partner with IDS to address some of our development challenges. Signature TV is an all-news 24/7 TV station. And our thematic focus is accountability journalism, development journalism, and we want to promote the values of democracy, good governance, free and fair elections, and other values that have remained problematic for our country.
Dr. Nwosu welcomed the idea of such collaboration, which he said is in tandem with the mission of the Institute, which is to bridge the gap between research and practice. He noted that the IDS is well positioned to provide research-backed insights and expertise to support Signature TV's community development initiative.
You are coming at a very important moment, like you mentioned, in the life of IDS. It is not that we are inventing the wheel. What I'm trying to do now is to reinvent a pathway that had been beaten before, but somehow abandoned along the line, which is to identify fully with the mandate of the institute at its inception.
A former director of the Institute, Professor Osita Obu, explained how the research findings of the Institute can be amplified using Signature TV platforms.
What Signature TV should do is to carve out almost a permanent future for issues around development. And there will be no better partner than IDS. What that means is every week, ask the director, nominate one person who can come and speak on a topic that they are working on, even if it is work in progress. If somebody is passing through here too, who is not even a staff of IDS, and they know about that person, they can also, under these auspices, direct that person to your show.
The two parties discussed potential areas of collaboration, including joint production of documentaries and TV programs focused on community development and joint research initiatives on pressing development issues. Ugonne Owalu, reporting for Signature TV.
The River State chapter of the Nigerian Labour Congress, under the leadership of the comrade Alex Awanwo, has given a deadline for the government to pay civil servants and public servants before the end of March. Otherwise, they will withdraw services across the state. This was disclosed in a communique read during a press conference on Thursday at the NLC Secretariat in River State.
Workers' salaries, most at local government level, have not been paid up to date since February 2025. And we also demand resolve the immediate implementation of the minimum wage at all the local government levels in River State at the end of this month. And the salaries of all local government workers to be paid on or before the end of this month of March. And salaries of all public workers in the state, the civil service of River State to be paid on or before the end of this month of March. And the council also resolved that if at the end of this month of March, the salaries of workers in the local government and the minimum wage in local government is not implemented, and also the salaries of workers in the public service and other public sectors under River State government is not paid, that the State Council
The Nigerian Customs Service has announced the deployment of an electronic currency, e-currency declaration form as part of its anti-money laundering measures for travelers carrying cash into and out of Nigeria. Spokesman for the organization, Abdullahi Maiwada, who announced this in an interview with newsmen in Abuja on Thursday, said that the form was designed to help travelers declare any currency exceeding the legal threshold before arrival or departure. Maiwada explained that the electronic system would improve monitoring by allowing the Customs Service to share information with relevant authorities, including working with airline operators to include announcements about the declaration requirements for sums exceeding the stipulated amount. The organization recently intercepted undeclared $1.1 million and 135,900 Saudi riyals at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, Kano. The Anti-Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022 and the NCS Act 2023 mandates that travelers carrying over $10,000, about 15.4 million naira, or its equivalent in negotiable instruments, must declare to the Nigerian Customs Service. The 15th Emir of Kano, Alhaji Aminu Bayero, has announced the cancellation of the Eid al-Fitr Durbar celebration due to security concerns in the state. Emir Bayero, who made the announcement while briefing newsmen at his Nasarawa Mini Palace in Kano on Wednesday, said that the peaceful coexistence of the people takes precedence over Durbar celebrations. The Emir had initially planned to hold the Durbar celebration, which have coincided with his 5th year anniversary on the throne. He, however, disclosed that respective Islamic clerics, elders, stakeholders, and his council members advised him to cancel the celebration to maintain peace. Bayero urged the people of Kano to use the period of the Salah celebration to visit families and friends and observe the festivities in a peaceful and harmonious atmosphere. He prayed for Allah's blessings and mercy during the month of Ramadan and hoping that people of Kano would receive forgiveness and mercy. Meanwhile, the federal government has declared Monday, March 31st and Tuesday, April 1st as public holidays to mark the Eid al-Fitr celebrations. The Minister of Interior, Olubimi Otunji-Ojo, who disclosed this in a statement, congratulated all Muslims for the successful completion of the fasting in the holy month of Ramadan. He urged all Muslims to embrace the virtues of self-discipline, compassion, generosity, and peace, emphasizing the importance of love, forgiveness, and solidarity in building a harmonious society. Tunji-Ojo called on Nigerians to use the festive period to pray for peace, stability, and prosperity of the nation, and expressed hope that the joyous occasion of Eid al-Fitr would inspire unity and cooperation across religious and ethnic lines. He encouraged citizens to celebrate safely and responsibly while remembering the less privileged through acts of kindness and charity in keeping faith with the true spirit of Ramadan and Eid. Still to come, far-right European politicians attend Jerusalem anti-Semitism conference. Ukraine Zelensky says U.S. constantly changing terms of minerals deal. These are more after the break. To stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Welcome back. This is Global News on Signature TV. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen reaffirmed Europe's long-term support for Ukraine during a summit in Paris on Thursday, pledging to front-load the European Union's part of loads from the G7 nations to Ukraine. Von der Leyen said the coalition of the willing had grown bigger, stronger, and more determined following the summit, which is the third by European nations, following concerns among Europeans that the U.S. no longer represents a firm bulwark of support for Ukraine in its three-year-old fight against Russia.
Very good meeting of the Coalition of the Willing. The Coalition of the Willing has gotten bigger, stronger, and very determined. I've basically three key takeaways. The first was a broad discussion on how to step up in the support for Ukraine in the short term, financially and military-wise, the military needs that are there in Ukraine that have to be fulfilled, but also the financial needs. And here I can contribute that we will front-load the EU part of the G7 loans for Ukraine. Second topic, keep up the pressure on Russia. It was very clear that the sanctions stay in place. What we want is a just and lasting peace agreement. That is the goal.
Europe is under pressure from U.S. President Donald Trump to take on a much greater share of the security burden in its own backyard, while the continent's anemic economic growth and high levels of debts have complicated their task. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned against the fires of anti-Semitism in Western Europe at their conference in Jerusalem on Thursday, overshadowed by a boycott by several Jewish speakers over the presence of a number of right-wing and far-right European politicians. The conference, organized by the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, was billed as a shared dialogue on addressing contemporary anti-Semitism. Netanyahu and anti-Semitism was growing in European capitals, the Western press and social media, and in elite U.S. universities. Several speakers drew a connection between what Netanyahu called the systematic alliance between the ultra-progressive left and radical Islam, and several speakers praised it and thanked U.S. President Donald Trump. The party, formerly known as the National Front, has long made efforts to shed the racist and anti-Semitic image associated with its founder, the late Jean-Marie Le Pen, who once described the Nazi Holocaust as a detail of history.
We refuse to surrender to terrorism. We do not bow our head to anti-Semitism. We fight back. We do so on the battlefields of the Middle East, and with your help, we will fight anti-Semitism on the intellectual and political battlefields of the world. The fate of free societies is tied to their willingness to fight the scourge of anti-Semitism. For anti-Semitism legitimizes and unleashes wanton violence against a part of human society just because of the identity of its members. Not because of anything they do, but because of who they are. And once this principle is practiced on one group, it has no limits.
French far-right president of the National Rally, Jordan Bardella, said on Thursday that his party was a shield for Jews in France while speaking at a conference on anti-Semitism in Jerusalem. Bardella's attendance at the conference in Jerusalem is the first time that the far-right party has been invited to speak at the event.
The United States is our trusted partner as we continue to build a stable, secure, and democratic society here. This visit has allowed us to consolidate our bilateral agenda, defining policies and outlining clear intentions in areas of security, trade, energy, investments, infrastructure, democracy, regional peace and stability, human capital deployment and development. We have committed to working closely together on the deployment of our energy potential, ensuring greater integration, value creation, and regional energy security.
This country has an opportunity to transform. And that's rare in the history of nations, to have an opportunity for transformative change. And what I mean by transformative change is not simply oil and gas fields. And that's very important. Natural resources are critical. But that is just the basic ingredient that allows prosperity to happen. One of the topics that's talked about all over the world today is data centers and the digitization of the economies, artificial intelligence. Do you know what you need in order to do that? You need to have really good scientists and engineers and technicians that know how to run it. But the most important thing you need to be a dominant presence in the world in data centers and artificial intelligence is reliable and affordable energy.
Other far-right Europeans are attending from the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and Hungary. Bardella on Wednesday visited the Nova Music Festival site and the Netiv Hazara, a kibbutz, both of which Hamas militant attacked in their raid on southern Israel on October 7, 2023. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned on Thursday that any Venezuelan attack on Guyana or oil giant ExxonMobil would result in severe consequences, calling it a very bad day for Venezuela. Guyana and Venezuela remain locked in a long-running territorial dispute over the 160,000 square kilometers Essequibo region, a case currently before the International Court of Justice. Tensions escalated earlier this month when Guyana accused the Venezuelan Coast Guard's patrol of entering its waters and approaching an offshore oil vessel operated by ExxonMobil. Alongside security concerns, Guyanese President Irfan Ali announced that Guyana and the U.S. have agreed to strengthen cooperation on energy production and regional economic initiatives. The United States will deploy biometric capabilities in partnership with Colombia to help manage migration and disrupt criminal activity, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said during a visit to Bogota on Thursday. Colombian President Gustavo Petro and U.S. President Donald Trump clashed in January over the treatment of Colombians on U.S. deportation flights, with Petro refusing the flights and Trump threatening to impose tariffs and sanctions in response. The two countries reached a deal on the flights, and deportations have since resumed, but Petro has urged migrants to return home. Deportees have recounted what they say was degrading treatment by U.S. authorities, including being transported in chains. And elsewhere, El Salvador is willing to continue cooperating with the United States on accepting more deported gang members. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said on Wednesday during her short tour of Latin American countries. Noem arrived in El Salvador to visit the high-security prison known as CISOT, where over 200 Venezuelan deportees from the U.S. are being held under accusation of belonging to the Tren de Aragua gang. The visit continued with the signing of a cooperation memorandum to update the Security Alliance for Fugitive Enforcement, SAFE, alongside the Salvadoran Justice Minister Gustavo Villatoro.
We talked about our cooperation on getting the worst of the worst out of the United States and out of our communities, making people safer. He has agreed and to continue the partnership on making sure that TDA members will be able to be here in El Salvador and work together to make sure that CICAD is a facility that we can continue to utilize into the future. And then also very focused on MS-13 gang members, that we would bring them back and bring them to justice as well. I think that is one of the discussions we'll continue to have. The president today indicated that he would be open to working with us in the future on still continuing to receive TDA members and MS-13 members. And so we are grateful for that. We recognize that we still have thousands of these terrorist organization members in our country.
And some sports update. Novak Djokovic is 2 wins away from capturing the 100th career title after beating Sebastian Korda 6-3, 7-6-4 in the Miami Open quarterfinal on Thursday. Djokovic let out a triumphant roar after sending down an ace on match point as his former rival and now coach Andy Murray jumped out of his seat to do the same. The Serbian 24-times Grand Slam champion trailed Korda 5-2 in the second set but broke the American as he served at 5-3, and his precise and powerful serving career carried him to the finish. Fourth seed Djokovic going for his record 7th Miami Open title at a 100th overall with phase 14th-seeded Bulgarian Grigor Dimitrov in the semifinals on Friday. Earlier unseeded Czech Jakub Mensik was a 7-6-5, 6-1 winner over 17th-seeded Frenchman Arthur Fils. Framber Valdez tossed 7 shutout innings and the new Luke Houston Astros claimed a 3-1 victory over the visiting New York Mets on Thursday. Valdez 1-0 became the first left-hander in the franchise history to make 4 consecutive opening day starts. He scattered 4 hits, issued 2 walks, and recorded 4 strikeouts, similarly strengthening as he worked deeper into his outing. Valdez tossed 90 pitches, 56 4 strikes. He faced trouble in the top of the first when he surrendered a 1-out single to Juan Soto before Pets Alonso walked. Valdez recovered and retired Mark Vietos and Brandon Nemo in succession and didn't allow another hit until Luis Torrens doubled with 1 out in the 5th. Torrens was subsequently erased trying to advance to third base for the final out of that frame. Valdez induced 8 ground ball outs, including a double play grounder by Vientos to close the 6th. Valdez entered the 7th with 81 pitches on the ledger, and after Nemo reached with a lead-off single, Valdez recorded strikeouts of Starling Marte and Luis Angel Acuna to cap his day. Paredes walked and scored in the Astros' 2-run third win. Yainer Diaz produced an RBI single to center of Mets right-hander Clay Holmes 0-1. Walker singled and later scored when second baseman Acuna committed a throwing error on a fielder's choice grounder from Pena. Holmes, a converted reliever making his first start since 2018, allowed 3 runs, 2 earned on 5 hits, and 4 walks with 4 strikeouts over 4-2 over 3 innings. Soto, the prize free agent signing who played last season for the New York Yankees, went 1 for 3 with 2 walks in the Pets' debut. He struck out representing the go-ahead run in the 9th against Astros closer Josh Jader, who loaded the bases with no outs and allowed a run-scoring sacrifice fly to Francisco Lindor. The Mets loaded the bases with 2 outs against Astros reliever Brian Ibro in the 8th, but Nemo was retired on a flyout to center. And that's the news this hour. Many thanks for watching. I'm Charles Pius. Join me in another 5 minutes for the morning show. You stay with us.
yeah, there is no way you totally eliminate alcohol in the society like Nigeria. You understand? So the alcohol of the thing, I don't really know, but there are things that why would they even put the Nigeria in question is not in a balance that somebody will just go to bed without alcohol. You get me right? You will not sleep well. You won't sleep well. Are you with me? You some of us these days if your eyes are not dirty we cannot sleep. But based on the situation we are facing today, like me in person, if I should go to my bed without the content of small alcohol, I cannot sleep. You got me right? I don't really know if when Nigeria fix our situation, we would divert from alcohol and be eating our food.
Cancer is not minor disease that someone can take for granted. So having linked the alcohol, having linked to the cause of cancer and the rest of it, my advice to those taking alcohol would be that there should be a minimal intake of alcohol, not excessive. And for those that are addicted to it, there will be a kind of sensitization towards it, so that they, when someone is addicted to something, stopping it entirely will be very difficult. So when sensitization comes in, the sensitization will basically focus on minimizing it, the intake now. And it's also good to sensitize those that have not embarked on taking alcohol or that have not been addicted to on taking alcohol. So all I can suggest is proper and thorough sensitization towards the effects or the consequences of alcohol or taking alcohol or too much of alcohol intake that regards or leading to the cancer problem. I think with that can minimize the rapid increase of cancer.
Normally alcohol is not that bad, but much of it is bad. So you have to, alcohol is good for the body in some certain circumstance, but don't take much of it. It's a risk though, but there are alcohol that is also nutrient, it's a nutrient to the body. For stress, sometimes you need it, though don't take much of it, that is all.
Honestly speaking, we have to see how we can incorporate, or should I say, have a lot of rehabilitation centers, and then also try to see how we can cancel all this ethanol, all this rubber drinks on the streets. Let's see how we can take them off the streets. It's affecting, and we should do it now. We shouldn't wait for any time. We should do it now.
It has caused a lot of harm than good. So some people will say that they are taking it because of the situation, they find themselves, and maybe the environment, they're not conducive enough, people due to loss of job and all that, and some other frustrated issues. But the truth is that alcohol has never been a remedy to any issue. Yeah. And also, once you continue taking alcohol due to a problem, it increases it, it doesn't reduce it. So my response to it is that, in fact, it's better to mitigate the use of alcohol entirely. And once that happens, people will begin to find solution to their immediate problem other than running to a shop or a bar to get alcohol.
And so it's a beautiful day. It's midweek, March 26, 2025. Hope you're good out there. All right, we're counting down to the end of the month of March, the very third month in the year 2025. From the April 1, I just wanted to tell you. Well, welcome everybody. It's a lovely Friday morning. A wise man once said that he would rather give attention to the processes leading to a result than the result itself. Because again, how do you evaluate a particular system or a particular result without really going through a process leading to a particular result? How did we jump at acknowledging the winner of the 1993 elections without acknowledging the person who led the process? The Southeast senators staged a walkout only yesterday, and whether that's enough is one thing. They staged a walkout because the Senate rejected a motion to immortalize the leader of NEC for the 1993 general election. I'm talking about late Humphrey Nwosu. That they are asking the president to go beyond what the Senate have done to make sure that, he is immortalized in one way or another. But then, beyond that, what is going on with the Southeast and Southeast governors? I thought that by now, with what has been going on, the Southeast Caucus or maybe Southeast governors would have met to do something for their own, who is going to be finally laid to rest today. All these and more are packed on the show today, so stay with us. This is a morning show here on Signature TV. We're back shortly with the headlines on our piece. So stay with us. Welcome back. This is the morning show on Signature TV. It's time for us to get to the headlines on our dailies. So we begin on the Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard this morning, Rivers, lawyers, others, flay Iba's suspension of political appointees. Suspension unconstitutional, says lawyers. Appointees sack evidence of a hidden agenda, says CUPP. CSOs petition UN over Tinubu's emergency declaration in Rivers. Emergency rule has solved 90% of crisis, says APC. Explains why Wike couldn't be suspended. Interesting, isn't it? All right, still on the Vanguard. Southeast Caucus falls Senate's rejection of immortalizing Nwosu, say he is hero of democracy. Walk out of chamber. Manager, 3 others arrested as lodger dies in Delta Hotel. Reps rescind decision to strip VP governors of immunity less than 24 hours after. Late ex-Oyo Governor Ajimobi's first daughter dies at 42. Bill to stop politicians above 60 from contesting presidential governor poll scales second reading in Reps. All the details you can find on the Vanguard. And in sports, World Cup qualifier, it's not over yet, but tougher tasks now. Osimhen speaks. All right, that's all we can take on the Vanguard newspaper. We're moving over to Daily Times. On the Daily Times this morning, President Tinubu's Mahama meet discuss Sahelian diplomatic efforts. Rivers APC chairman says emergency declaration saved anarchy. UK government releases names of 58 dead Nigerians with unclaimed estates. That's the Daily Times newspaper. UK government releases names of 58 dead Nigerians with unclaimed estates. Interesting. Akpabio to Lato, your passion for work exceptional, unprecedented. Reps make U-turn on bill to remove immunity of VP and governors. Others. Tinubu at 73. Presidents to mark birthday with special national prayer session at Abuja Mosque. The president is 73 years old. That's interesting. Never knew he was. Anyways, over now to the Blueprints newspaper. We back down on Kano Salah Durbar to avoid bloodshed, says Adobayero. Still on the Blueprints newspaper, I'm not against Sharia law in Southwest, says Makinde. Oil marketers alarmed by soaring petrol landing costs. Super Eagles versus Ghana friendly to hold in England. 2027, no vacancy as Tinubu's second term in office assured, says Akpabio. Economy stabilizing, says Minister. President marks 73rd birthday at National Mosque, seeks citizens' continued support. Tariff hikes court to rule in multi-choice FCCP's dispute May 8th. All the details you can find on the Blueprints newspaper. Now over to the Daily Trust. On the Daily Trust, constitutional amendments. Reps rescind decision on immunity. Many flee as insurgents attack Adamawa villages. Muhammad Tinubu, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso issues complicated. Lagos funds. Atiku denies link with Sanwo-Olu as EFCC probes at Chimugu. Well, quite an interesting development, what we're seeing. Tinubu's second term assured, says Akpabio. NNPCL set to sell shares to public. Shooting of immigration officer by Chinese. Attack on Nigeria, says Minister. Meningitis kill 3 in Gombe. Federal government deploys teams in Keppi, Sokoto, and Katsina states. And now to the Nigerian Tribune, just above the mast at Makinde, Adelabu Bagudu Ali, APC mourn Ajumobi's 42-year-old daughter's death. Again, Senate throws out motion to immortalize Nwosu, observes 1 minute silence instead. Southeast senators in shock. We are not heard. And still on the Nigerian Tribune, Atiku rubbishes link with Sanwo-Olu. I have never met him. I had no transaction with him. Money transfer allegations aimed at sacking Lagos governor. Nigeria's economy achieving stability, says Finance Minister. NNPC at final stage of listing in capital market. Mahama briefs Tinubu on Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger missions. All right, all the details you can find on the Nigerian Tribune. And now finally to the Punch newspaper. On the Punch, 60-year age limits, PDP, others, knock reps, say bill on president governors misplaced. With the writer, bill may bar Tinubu, Atiku, Obi from 2027 poll, CUPP, SDP back candidates, competence against age-based bill. Edo feature, NCDC, FRSC deploy operatives in prayer grounds, others. Tinubu marks 73rd birthday today, seeks spiritual guidance for Nigeria. Daniel Abiodun trade words over Tasud's takeover by federal government. Parents tackle Ogun school over incisions on children's bodies. Local government crisis. Osun APC PDP clash after meeting with AGF. Mahama briefs Tinubu on ECOWAS talks with Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. All the details you can find on the Punch newspaper this morning. House under fire for reversing immunity withdrawal bill. Rivers elders group slam Ibas for sacking Fubara's appointees. 807 meningitis case. 74 deaths recorded in 22 states. Experts lament as crude shortage funds ground 7 refineries. All of it's on the Punch. Moving over now to the other side of the table where Chris Monica is waiting. Good morning, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, John.
Quite an interesting development across boards. But then let's begin with the Southeast caucus in the Senate, so, practically moving out from the Senate and stating that they are in shock with what the Senate did. I mean, how do you recognize someone who won an election without recognizing the person who headed the process?
Charles, do not interrupt me. I'm observing 1 minute silence. I want to observe 1 minute silence for the observer for 1 minute silence and for the person to observe 1 minute silence. Let's observe 1 minute silence for all of them. May the soul of the observer and the observee rest in peace. Charles, there are way you go about it becomes that they are making us to become emotional. We have observed 1 minute silence for them, and we pray they continue to observe 1 minute silence. There are certain things, they might have, I don't know, Somebody like Adams Oshomole. Is a man I have very big respect for, especially growing up as a young man, as a student, a university graduate in Nigeria, where you know of Adams Oshomole as the chairman of Nigerian Labour Congress. You know, one time when we were celebrating the birthday, posthumous birthday for Nanda Azikiwe, he was brought in as one of the keynote speakers in Onitsha. We were one member of the organizing committee at Inosi Onira, at the house of Azikiwe. He flew in from the ILO Congress in Switzerland, came in for that show and went back. That was how. Then I was the master of ceremony. I described Adams Oshomole as Adams Fuel Oshomole, because then he was fighting this fuel increase and all. He was very active and all. But quite recently, now you start wondering what being in government in Nigeria does to the psyche of people. What is the logic that the eminence personality like Humphrey Mosu cannot be posthumously honored? What's the logic? Like you said rightly, there's an event that he was made an umpire. He's just like somebody in the mid football game. He kicked up the game, he had the whistle, and he was officiating the match. He was just steady when the Charles team scored the first goal time. And he was announcing. And people were happy. Suddenly, the organizers of the match said, "You must stop this match now." The man said, "No, that is not good to change the rule at the middle of the game." He insisted on carrying out the match while announcing every result, every penalty kick he would score, every infringement he was. Then they went into the field, bundled the man out with physical harm, gagged him, pulled him away, locked him up in his house, and said he shouldn't even move away, he shouldn't even breathe. And the world saw it. And now, we are celebrating the people who were offended in that match, giving them so many honors. It was that particular football match, or the democratic game, that made us to have to June 29 as a Democracy Day in Nigeria. Now, but Humphrey Mosu should not. By the way, this well-honored, the world honored him, the living and the dead honored him, will be going the way of all the mortals today, in his hometown, in Ojali, in Orumba South of Anambra State. In observing the 1 minute silence, I didn't understand that. We are saying, may the angels of heaven sing his soul to sleep, so that we'll even be considering. Oshomole said that Humphrey Mosu is the man who messed June 12 up. That is the confusion. That's the confusion I don't understand about Nigeria. But no problem. Shebi, the Nigerian Senate have observed 1 minute silence. And they threw out the second time that bill to honor Humphrey Mosu. We are here in Nigeria. Like most of my Christian friends, which I am one of them, we say, if Jesus Christ tarries in coming, we will see. I've always said, if you as a slave attend the burial of a fellow slave, and you now see how that slave is buried, just know the same fate awaits you. All the metals are going to the smith. Let's know who will stay back and who in this distinguished Senate will be honored later by this generation. For all of them had a hand. All that said, apart from the ones who walked away and said, if you cannot honor this man, we are walking away from this session. Let the ones who remain there wait for the generations to come to honor them. Remember that whatever you sow, you reap. I don't know whether Nigerian politicians ever remember that. If it's what Humphrey Nwosu sowed that is reaping, let it be with Humphrey Nwosu. According to Julius Caesar, you know, remember the Shakespearean, right? But if not, let the spirits and all things that are pure and holy vindicate Humphrey Nwosu. That's what I would say. What else can we say? Everything still keep pushing to the point that some people in Nigeria feel that whenever any issue comes up from their side, they are marginalized. I just don't want us to keep bringing this up. Even if there's a way they will manage it, there's no thing that tells me or convinces me why Humphrey Nwosu should not be immortalized in Nigeria when we are talking about democratic process. Unless Nigeria have said, we are finished with democracy. So no honoring, whether you have a play a role, you know, just sweep all of them under the carpet. Let's move on. After all, I don't know, even you don't even know the mind of the man who is pounding cassava fufu with a bag hung over his neck. You don't know whether he finished pounding the fufu he put in the bag. With the experiment in River State, who knows whether Nigerian democracies are the blinks? Who knows what are we trying to experiment? That's what they're speaking to. We are here. There is this, the man, the Cicero, you know, remember him, Bolaige. He said, sit down, look. But the man from Imo State where precisely said, sit down and be watching. God will give us life. That is if hunger and hardship, man created if issues, did not cut it short. But otherwise, the same God that created coconut will give him the water to drink. We'll be here. This is our country. We're not Japan. All these things are for you to Japan. So leave this. Don't let it continue. We are here. We are here to stay. Now here we go die. If you turn it upside down, we adapt. When we have chance, we will strike.
Right. Well, I mean, do you think that the president would, in one way or another, you know, listen to the senators from the Southeast? And secondly, why do you think the Southeast governors haven't done anything about it? Because again, I mean, this is for a man who has
I'm coming back to that. I'm coming back to that. Because once you talk about, to show the world that we throw the stone, and the punch and open our hands, we don't have any stone inside. I tell you, Charles, in the name of all things pure and holy, anything that is bad, but no matter who done it. I come from Anambra State. And Humphrey Nwosu is from my state. In Anambra State, they have failed. Everybody involved in anything, politics, democracy, and Anambra, failed. I don't see any reason why you call your Abba Mbokoro and expect somebody somewhere to call it, to honor it. The Anambra people, particularly, before I come to Southeast governors, because if you're coming to Southeast governor, do they exist? Have they ever met? How many times do they meet? How have they convinced the Southeast that they are pursuing a collective and regional goals? If not speaking from both sides of the mouth, political confusion. But this come, they were pretensions and they were doing all this kind of trial. What happened to Anambra State? Even the private individuals. We have political, you know, what they call it, political science departments, even if it's a department. Who has installed a chair in Nigerian political departments of political sciences in all our universities on behalf of Humphrey Nwosu and made it a media event? Who has? Everybody kept quiet, expecting that America will honor us, Canada will honor him. Then before you come down, then because certain things will remind people of all that. I know other regions of Nigeria how they collectively pursue their own thing. Now Anambra didn't do nothing; they failed. Southeast governors did not do anything; they failed. They're only here taxing people to death, and they're not even bringing something that will make people look at. Well, this is also good, so that when they do one thing, they say, "This one is good. This one is hard." Like a woman, there's a woman in the neighborhood where I say who normally use a cane to settle issue between her and the husband. Each time he will whip the husband will say, Madam, car for you. You know? When these governors of the Southeast will whip us, we say, governors car for you. But when they do something, you say, okay, this one is a little, let's use one to this one to, we balance it up. But nothing. They're just flowing on their own. They don't listen to any. The whole Nigerian establishment and government issues, they don't listen to the people. The bishop, the Catholic bishop of Nsukka, that revered gentleman, said it all. He said, any society that the leaders do no more fear or listen to the people is gone. And that's the era we are. Tell me one thing Nigerians have said they don't want that government to look into. Anything they've decided is just one way. And that's it. And they will tell us we are in democracy. Are we really? Are we really? That's the question. If you need to convince me, maybe I am alone. But I don't always talk and these days I say I am right. I just say, convince me. Probably I'm not getting it right. From my conviction and from the interaction of people, things are not normal. Things are not going well. Beyond the Humphrey Woods issue, there are so many unsung heroes of Nigeria. And their souls are haunting Nigerians. And want to have peace.
Well, in that line of peace, Akpabio is saying no vacancy in the Aso Villa in 27.
If Akpabio say anything different, I'll be surprised. No, you said it in the past. It was when Ganduje and the APC met and they have the working committee of APC. Why should we be reviewing such things? They are the things we expect them to say. How can you, as the third most important Nigerian, who under the same ruling party, you got there, whatever is, and with what the issues around, are you expecting that you say something different? When they were teaching you mass communication, they say, dog bite man is no news. So this issue of Akpabio saying there's no vacancy in Aso Rock is dog bite man. Normal. It's only when they say man bite the dog. That's when we have news. No, it's not news. Let's move on. What are we talking about? I think we want to see is a 60-year age limit.
Yeah.
When they trumped it up, I don't know, but the person who trumped it up, it was like, hey, 60 what? Everybody start checking their real age. There's real age, there's political age in Nigeria. I remember a friend, I was telling my friend that we went for one interview and somebody brought out his paper and the interviewer said, they looked at the face of the, they said, is this your age? He said, they asked one question. He said, when were you born? He could not tell us your birth. So, so Nigerians, to tell a lie is easy. Because, and that's one of the greatest things that happened to Nigerians abroad. They tamper with their age. So, and they think in the foreign system, all those organized systems, you can tamper with your age and come back. That's the only thing that puts most Nigerians in prison abroad. Age, tampering. But in Nigeria, the civil service structure, you have civil service, you have political age, you have your real age. That even the Nigerian establishment do not recognize any document. There's some documents you bring, they say this is the one the one they walked. So what are we working on? We have created age of confusion. Our president is 73. By the way, congratulations, Jagaban. Our dear president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as you celebrate your 73rd birthday, may the Almighty God keep keeping and guiding you and granting you more strength, knowledge, and wisdom to steer the ship of. You know, Charles, somebody said, this age thing, I come here, I tell you, Chris is 40, and you are doubting me. You look at me, are you sure? You ask me, I say I'm 40. Go to court. So these 60 years, people they've now talked and then they now realize that they have put a hurdle against themselves and they are turning back. Just like the issues where we're talking about the immunity clause that put the vice president, the governors and deputies, they now have stormed back and then waved it back. They say, no, we now find out everybody, what is good for the geese is good for the gander, which was what I said. But what we will not hear again, the issue of that immunity will have died. Nobody will mention again whether they are pursuing it. They now say they are not removing this for immunity. Let them pursue it and tell us that all Nigerian political appointees, every Nigerian political holder have no immunity. So that you go to answer Fubo immediately, real time, not postponing it. And I think that's also part of our democratic development and maturity. That you are the governor does not stop you from where you commit traffic offense. You should not make out time of your tight schedule to go attend the court, and so if you bury yourself, go back to the office. After all, people who are in office, they have court cases they think.
Absolutely.
So that is what we're saying. Instead of you go 240 million Nigerians, you say you carry salt to put on their head, and you go back and make rain follow them. Say immunity. That means George Orwell's Animal Farm. Animals are equal, but some are more equal than the others. That is the problem of Nigerian democratic system. Remove that immunity. Let us begin to understand that you are there to serve just because you wish to go and serve. It's not by force. But this is Nigeria where people kill. They do everything to get into power, so you'll be wondering what they're going there for. When we begin to remove some of the attractions, unnecessary attractions to these positions, political positions in Nigeria, we will begin to have what we call political maturity and some stability. Because you make up your mind where you are going there. If you are going there to booger, to use power, to all this one, you now know it's not more important because nobody cares. After all, decent society, some of our people travel to. Their prime ministers and their big ogas ride on bicycle to work. They live in their own house, they pay their own tax. Go to market, buy their food with their own money. But just check the simple budget of feeding in Asorok in one day. Check Asorok budget. No state in Nigeria has ever had such a budget. And this is a country where people are dying and poor in the name of a clause of immunity. Some people go and hide under many things to be doing us dying, sucking our blood in the name of governance. There's no a king who makes feast of his subjects. He's ruling ghosts. When people are not happy, you as the only man. So give birth the cloth, every other man is lying on the ground. You're matching them. You're happy.
We're closing out, but again, just on the final note, the sole administrator in Rivers State is sacking and appointing people. So far, he has sacked all the political appointees of Fubara. Do you think there's a sinister move in order to, for something that's going to happen? This is more like a foundation to what's going to happen.
I'm not a witch doctor, but any boy who is sent to go and steal by his father breaks all the doors and windows with his legs. The President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, why are they talking about a boss and the power given to him? He has been given power to do and undo. If that power is not checked from the source, anybody talking about looking at a boss is looking at the wrong person. Even if I come here, and the president has announced that he has suspended you, that I replace you, I come here, and he gave me a blank check. Immediately I come, he released all the funds that they didn't release to me earlier. Then he released it to me. He didn't release, and he said, "Go ahead, do all you had 6 months. You have my mandate." So who do you expect to the sole administrator of Rivers State to listen to? Listen to you or me? He took his orders from the top. And then that's how he's going to function. Whatever even if you want to go to court. Because some Nigerians are now saying, yesterday we talked about the law and the implementers of law at that honored chamber, whether we still have it. Because if it is, there are so many court cases that have against the sole administrator himself, stopping him from certain action. Has he stopped? He's still functioning and still taking decisions. So whether you like it or not, according to my professor, the sole administrator of River State is taking decision. Whether he's taking right decision or wrong decision, he's taking decision all the same. Because somebody sent him. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Chris Baduka, for your time and your insights on the front page of our dailies this morning. So we're back shortly after this. You stay with us.
With a population of about 36 million people, the Southeast is awash with stories. Every day on Southeast News, we tell the peculiar story of the Southeast and her people.
Our Southeast should be the Silicon Valley of Nigeria.
Their successes, achievements, and daily challenges. Do you have a Southeast story to share? Community achievements and challenges, completed and uncompleted projects, bad roads, water scarcity, erosion, flooding, insecurity, or even disagreements? Bring it on to Southeast News. On Southeast News, no story is too big or too small. Southeast News. Let's tell our story. Showing on Signature TV every weekday at 4 p.m. WAT, 1600 hours GMT.
The Nigerian Labour Congress has reacted really vehemently about what is going on in Rivers State. As a matter of fact, they're even threatening to go on a strike if something is not done about it. Specifically, let's even talk about their reaction to the state of emergency. They released a statement condemning it. We have with us in the studio today is the comrades Ben Aswawa, as the TUC chairman in ENUGU chapter. He will just give us an overview on the reasons why the decisions were taken regarding the state of emergency. Good to have you. Good morning, sir.
All right. Good morning. It's a pleasure being here with you.
All right. I'm sure that whenever decisions are taken, you people meet and then take that decision, so there wouldn't be any dissenting voices. What kind of meeting did you guys have to reach to a conclusion that what the president did in Rivers State was wrong?
All right. In the first place, the ultimatum given was issued by the Rivers State Council of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria and Nigeria Labour Congress. But that is in tandem with the stand of organized labor in Nigeria. Because what we normally do is that we do a review of the state of the nation every now and then. It's as frequent as one can think of, especially when there are certain developments. For instance, we give reports of what happens in every state. As I'm in ENUGU here, if there is any development here that requires communication to the national leadership, we do that. So when the issue of Rivers State came up, it was reviewed based on the implications and also the political scenario that led to what happened in Abia State. And I must practically tell you that Nigeria is really sliding into a state of anarchy, where we have a cover of political system we call democracy, but the content is more of anarchy, because that is only where you see such a situation that power rests on certain people to the extent that things can be done the wrong way. So when we reviewed the particular reasons given for the state of emergency, and then the kind of effect it has on the working class, specifically the workers in Rivers State, because it's just like having a military rule in the state. In a situation where we've already seen that the chief of staff has been appointed, and that is a military officer, and we are no more used to that military aspect, especially when we don't think that a lot of things have happened to warrant state of emergency. Now, that is why people in Rivers State view it as an anti-democratic action, and not in the interest of the people. Because if you look at the scenario, it was more like a calculated action, in the sense that what is going on in Rivers State is practically a political tussle, which happens virtually in many states of the country. And when the president was talking about the state of emergency, he mentioned certain things, including the fact that an oil pipeline was tampered with in the morning of that day. And he has forgotten that he's the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic, that both the military and police and all other security agencies are under him as the president of this country. And as the law states it, the power is not directly resting on the governor. The governor doesn't give directive to IG. Even the commissioner of police in the state will always tell you that he takes command from his boss up there in most cases, especially when the desire of maybe the governor is at variance with that of the federal government. So, but coming down to say that the governor failed in that aspect is more like just calling a dog bad name in order to kill it. Because we, from the Labour perspective, do not see any political scenario, any scenario that is unusual with the political system. He, as the president, also has interests, because even when he was talking, he heaped all the blames on one person. But let me not just go into the nitty-gritties of that state of emergency. But as it affects workers, we know that in a military system, it is always difficult for you to even air your view. It's always difficult for you to say no to wrong actions. And when you bring in military system and use it to create a gap between the people and democracy, you are already taking away that right. So, and that is why our people are against it. Because we know that as it is today, it is difficult for you to now begin to query the military on their actions. It's difficult for you. If you want to come out to protest, they will call it one name. They can even say that it is a treasonable offense. The military is such a system that doesn't follow all these constitutional provisions. And we know that even as we talk, the salaries of Rivers State workers is already being overlooked to a good extent. And when you talk about federal allocation to a state, if you are withdrawing federal allocation, you know that the consequences is not just on the governor, but the people. And the way federal government has handled Rivers State issue shows that they are playing to the gallery. And no one ordinarily expected President ENUGU to behave this way, because he actually suffered the same fate when he was governor. He stood on his own and against the president of the nation then, and he distinguished himself from other governors. Even when federal government was then fighting him, the judiciary rescued him, the people rescued him, people were for him. And I can say that even at that early period of democracy, it was more democratic than now. So if he could survive such, if he could survive the trend, then why shouldn't a governor survive just because he's having an issue with former governor, your minister? But he survived the confrontation he had with the then president when he was the governor. So now he has taken away everything from the people as regards even electoral processes. It has got to a point where even when you have a democratically elected person, the president can just stand up and pronounce whatever. If we allow such to continue, we'll get to a time where maybe after election, if you win from opposition party, the party on seat or the president in power can just bring up one issue and declare state of emergency and remove a democratically elected governor. So we don't think it is healthy. We feel it's anti-democracy. And this is the height of injustice in the sense that what he mentioned, okay, look at other states of the nation where a lot of things are happening, where some parts of you come to a state and find out that some parts have been colonized by terrorists. Is that not stronger than what is happening in River State? If any place, if we should consider the situation, both issues, in fact, it is more relevant or more reasonable to declare state of emergency in a state where part of the state has been colonized by terrorists than where there is just political misunderstanding. And we all know practically that the issue is between two elephants, the sitting governor and the former governor, minister, for that matter. And if that is the case, if you want to intervene as the president, it should be to broker peace, not to make sure that you successfully brought down a democratically elected governor. And the people will start running military government in a democratic system. It doesn't really tally. So what is River State is now becoming it's like a state in Nigeria that is existing like a different nation. Because while other states of the federation are enjoying democracy, I can just say that there is military rule in Rivers.
Well, the president, said, afterward, because AGF came out and also said certain more things, stating clearly that they are linking the governor to the bombing that happened because there were threats, and the threats came from Ijaw nation, and he is of Ijaw stock. In days leading to the bombing of the pipeline, he never once condemned them. Not once did he say, I'm condemning whoever is giving this threat. In fact, I'm going to send security against you. So the president read it like he is with them in that notion. And so because of that, he needed to take full wrath. It's not as if he cannot declare a state of emergency and still leave him. But in a situation where you have a sitting governor whom they claim they have, evidence linking him to the militant group, and then you have a state of emergency, the things might run, there might be more chaos. So the only way, I'm thinking, what they are thinking is to allow the governor to step aside, and then let's have a clearer view on what's going on. Don't you think that they did that, to avert the impending, chaos in River State?
Wonderful. In fact, I'm just hearing for the first time that such an issue of this gravity can be handled with implied meaning. Because it's implied to say that because the governor is from Ijaw nation, and there is that tribe, and Ijaw people threatened, and an action was taken, therefore the governor was the one that insinuated them.
He did not condemn it. He did not even tell them.
Let me tell you one thing. How do you condemn something? Does it only imply coming out to announce that these people did the wrong thing? Was he clapping for them? Because it would have been enough for the president to tell us that after the bombing that the governor was hailing them. Can we say that the governor was hailing them? Even if he didn't come out to say, I'm condemning what you are doing, did they hear or did they see the governor come out to say that he's happy with what they did? Let me ask, the vice president of this country, is he not from time he was accused. Am I wrong? There was a time he was even accused of being part of or sponsoring the terrorists. Did that stop him from being the vice president of Nigeria? So when we look at certain things, in fact, in some states of the nation, certain things happen and you don't see the governors. In fact, some people even believe that some northern elders and authorities are in support of certain things happening there. Some also believe that in the southeast, that there are some people in the southeast that hobnob with some certain set of people. Does that stop them from being part of the country or having the right maybe to become a governor or whoever? So how can you just interpret something on an implied form and use it to take such a dangerous decision?
No, it's
so
not implied.
It's not enough.
He's the chief security of the country, and he knows everything that happens. He gets briefing every day.
As the chief security of the country, why did that happen? Because he has also failed. If not, why if he has information, he should have gotten enough information even before the threat. Okay, the threat, there was a threat. And as chief security of this country, he didn't, because if he took sufficient steps to address the threat, they wouldn't have actualized it. So if a particular set of people threatened, you didn't go ahead to arrest those that threatened, you didn't beef up security in such a way that they won't be able to do that until it happened. Who is to blame first? He's also to blame. Because for me, if he did what he was supposed to do as the chief security officer of this country, that wouldn't have happened. So coming back to blame the governor to the extent of removing him from office or suspending him, is not really enough. Such is not enough explanation to it. And did he invite the governor? Did he query the governor on it? He should have. There would have been a kind of communication between them.
He said he did.
He said he did on some other occasions. And when he did the governor tell him, did he tell us that the governor said, hey, leave them, they are my people, I'm in support? Did he say that? So if he did, and possibly the governor said, well, why didn't he tell us that the governor now said, no, don't touch my people, I like what they are doing? If that is the case, he should tell us. Let me tell you, what he did was politically motivated. That is the bitter truth. It was politically motivated.
How so?
Because there is a political scenario that has been the cause of all these things. And we know that there are so many political interests in the state, particularly between the two elephants, the present Minister of Works, FCT, and the governor, the sitting governor. There was a time he even intervened. And there was Supreme Court ruling. And since there is a preceding Supreme Court ruling, he should have also waited to know if the governor will implement it. The failure of the governor to implement it or refusal to implement it would have also been another meaningful thing. Even when he was saying that he breached all these rules, he breached this one, he breached that, at least there was a... If there is a ruling at lower court and somebody appeals, you don't call it a breach until the final judgment from the apex court, which is what happened there. And when that happened, did the governor not come out openly to say that he was going to obey the court ruling? So, why now coming to flog it up again as if the governor... In fact, I'm not trying to speak for him, but speaking on the side of democracy, I must tell you for sure that it was a calculated action. It was calculated. In the first place, there was a move to impeach the governor. Why didn't he wait for them to follow that democratic process of impeachment? That would have made better meaning to Nigerians. If the House of Assembly members had successfully carried out the impeachment of that the governor of Rivers State, in fact, nobody would have condemned him.
It's a process. I mean, I'm not sure that process would have in any way finished in 2 weeks, because even the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice is under the employ of the governor, so you wouldn't have
It doesn't mean, he should also know that is why he cannot easily be impeached. He, as the president, it is the same conditions that will make it difficult for Fubara to be impeached, that made it also difficult for him to be impeached easily. So why all this? Is it not a process that protects him as well? Do you think that if it's easy to impeach, he wouldn't have been impeached? The law made it that way, so that you don't just wake up and get to the legislative house and impeach the sitting president or governor. That is why the law made it that way. So, and from what you said, let me also give an implied interpretation. He knew that it was going to be difficult for the legislators to succeed in impeaching the governor, so he had to use an alternative means. They went into the process, and having calculated what the outcome was going to be, he knew that it was going to be difficult for them to successfully impeach the governor following the legitimate processes. So the next option, which I may term option B, was to quickly declare a state of emergency. How do we, okay, if he's now accusing the governor of masterminding that, the action he took may even be interpreted as to say that what happened could have been executed by some plotters who capitalized on that threat. It can also be interpreted that way. Because the way he quickly took action, something happens today, tomorrow you had already taken action, showing that something was somehow planned, if we must all begin to give implied interpretation. So for us, the workers, we know that it's not healthy to start sliding Nigeria back to military. At least we have survived decades of military rule in this country. And having switched over to democracy, we want our democracy to be holistic. State of emergency can be declared, but you can declare state of emergency and still leave the sitting governor there.
Yeah.
And when you declare such state of emergency, it also gives you power to take certain actions as the chief security officer. Why didn't you leave the governor there? Why must you bring in the military? That tells you that something is wrong somewhere. And that is a poison to our democracy. The action the president took is a potent poison to democratic system, I must tell you. You know, the problem with the law is that sometimes you can quote any aspect. It's just like the Bible, where you can quote some aspects to justify whatever you are doing. Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I know quite well that what happened in Rivers State is not enough for the removal of a sitting governor, if it was not calculated. And that is why the workers are not comfortable, because we cannot survive another era of military rule. We've tasted both sides, and we know which one is better. No matter what is going on, at least we should have the right to talk. We should have the right to complain when things go wrong.
But have you people tried to engage the sole administrator in River State?
Anyway,
how is the engagement like?
Because
I don't understand how the TUC and NLC would engage the sole administrator, because he's there to fill in the gap. And he's not there as governor. He's not there as elected member. Or he's not like the governor left and somebody House Speaker stepped up or something.
Governor.
Yes, he's there. So he is totally like an alien to the system, because he has never been a governor before. So
even if he has been a governor before, he could also have been a governor as a military person.
Yes.
So at least we want, when you say that somebody is a sole administrator, the name alone tells you how such a person can act. So there is no chain of consultations. Now he has brought chief of staff. He has sacked SSG. He can bring maybe one other military person as the SSG. You can't question him. He's a sole administrator. He's on his own.
So how do you engage him? How does NLC and TUC engage that kind of person?
That is the issue. Even when you have channel of communication, it's discretionary. If you have to communicate with him, it's now discretionary. Because being a sole administrator, you don't even have laid down procedure. So he can only invite you to come. But if it's a sitting governor, we have our own ways of doing things. We have commissioners, have all these other people, and the legislative arm as well. So there will always be checks and balances, but in this case, there is none. So in the next 6 months, there won't be much checks and balances in Rivers State. If the sole administrator decides that he will now be paying salaries after 2 months. You can only protest, and when you protest, they can equally say that you are disrupting, that you are causing nuisance, or you are breaching the security. Find one reason to talk about. And I can tell you that with the presence of sole administrator, the military will be on top gear in their actions. So when you look at all these things, has Rivers State become so volatile to the extent that there should be military rule? That is the question. Because whether you call it sole administrator or whatever, I see it as military rule. And that is why you now see the military in the government house of Rivers State. If you are sending any mail to the sole administrator, the person to receive it as chief of staff is a military officer. So what is then the difference? It's military rule. So they have created demo military system in Nigeria, where some people are enjoying democracy, others are suffering military rule, just for political tussle between two people. As the president of this country, he has all it takes to put a stop to what has been happening in Rivers State. But because of political interests, a lot of things are happening. And because you know what happens in Nigeria, you go into office, instead of trying to deliver the dividend of democracy, you start from that moment to plot how you stay for your second tenure. And whoever you feel is a threat to it must be brought down. So
do you think that that's the issue
for
2027?
A lot of okay. If you look at the scenario now, let me digress a little. Look at what is happening even at the National Assembly, particularly the Senate. If you are a senator in Nigeria or House of Rep member, if you don't key in, you will be tagged an enemy. And when such a system is allowed to run, we will suffer. That is just the truth. Okay, look at the Senate, where a senator accused Senate president of sexual harassment. And what they could do was to come out and suspend her. Is that part of democracy? If I were the president and you do that as Senate president, I will invite you and advise you. Because it's wrong. Somebody accused you. The only way to justify yourself is to oppress her. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's oppression.
No, they didn't do that because she accused the Senate president. They said they did that because she flouted the Senate standing rule over and over again.
Standing rule over and over again. Why was she not suspended when she flouted the rules until she accused the president? Let me tell you, if a witch cries in the night and the baby dies in the morning, you don't ask who killed the baby. Because if she has been flouting their rules and they suspended her prior to this allegation, should have applied a different thing. But the suspension now came. Okay, why did they now even say she must? Because let me tell you, in other climes, if you as a sitting Senate president should allow that, it will be a problem. In the first place, for the fact that the Senate president was accused by Senator Natasha, that should have been the reason that the Senate president shouldn't have presided over her suspension. In a good democratic system, he should have tactically, even if he had decided what to happen, he should have allowed the deputy Senate president to preside. Because he was being an arbiter in his own case. He made himself an arbiter in his own case. So if you're a judge over your case, how will you be found guilty? So, and that is where I don't think we are really running through democratic system. Because if I were him, I would have pushed for her to, even if you want to suspend her, I would say no, because I will know that once she's suspended, I will be the first. They will believe that I did it because she accused me. But nobody has such conscience in Nigeria. He sat there and presided and raised the gavel on the suspension of somebody that accused you when you know that you are the accused. Is that how to justify yourself? So if I must say, when we begin to play certain games, the only thing they have above us is opportunity. They are not more intelligent than other Nigerians. Many other Nigerians are brighter than them. They just had the opportunity to be there. But they haven't understood this. They believe that because you elected a president or senior president or House of Rep member, you have become more intelligent than other Nigerians. Who told you that? In fact, there are more doubts in certain successful positions than you can think. So it doesn't mean that if you attain a position, you are better than others. In fact, there was a day I was talking with colleagues and even other professionals, doctors and co. And I asked them, where do you think you find the most intelligent people? Some of them said among doctors, among lawyers. I said no. The most intelligent people are the vulcanizers, the farmers in the bush and co. The only difference is that they didn't get the opportunity you had. Yes, because some of them, if they had the opportunity, maybe when you were coming first in school, you wouldn't have been the first person. Because some of them are more intelligent than you. So if you are in a vantage position, just thank God that you were given the opportunity. Not because you are more intelligent. But the way they act is as if they have already concluded that we are chaffs. They've already concluded that we don't know anything. And whatever they do, we won't understand it. We understand the intricacies. Even when we don't have the capacity to stop them, it records in our memory. We know why they do what they do. So, in that of Rivers State, our primary interest there is that the workers cannot risk the issue of military. Because if you talk in Rivers State, there is every tendency that the sole administrator will say, I've sacked you.
Yeah.
And that is a big deal. And who knows what their plan is?
Yeah.
If you keep quiet, they said for this is in the interim. After 6 months, nobody knows what will happen.
Yeah.
He can also declare another 6 months. And by the time he declares another 6 months, it will be running into the end of that this particular tenure.
True.
So, and that will now mean that you've messed up the democratic system in Rivers State. Because of what I can term flimsy reasons. Because what happened prior to the declaration of state of emergency is not an issue that the president, as the chief security officer of this country, cannot tackle without removing the governor.
Absolutely. Comrade Ben, we'll keep an eye on this development. If there's anything that comes on, we would also invite you further. But we want to appreciate you for your insights on the program this morning.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we're back after this. Do stay with us. Ramadan is finally coming to an end. On the 31st day of the month of March, it would be Eid al-Fitr, and the 1st of April would be the second day of that. But again, we just want to highlight some of the significance of Ramadan fasting and the implication of that on the lives of Nigerians. We have with us via Zoom this morning Dr. Ismail Chindo Gotomo. Is Imam Haliru Abdul Jamait Mosque, Building Kebbi, lecturer, Waziru Umaru Federal Polytechnic, Building Kebbi, Nigeria. Good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us, Imam.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. As we draw close to the end of the Ramadan fast for the year 2025, can you give us the advantages and the implications of Ramadan fasts, on the lives of Muslim and of course that of other faiths as well?
Thank you very much. This is a very good question. Ramadan fast is prescribed in the glorious Quran. The Quran tells us that, all you who believe, fasting has been prescribed unto you, just as it was prescribed unto those before you. Meaning to say that other religions that came before Islam, like Judaism and Christianity actually, so that you may attain piety, or so that you may take cover, or so that you may have shield. Now, this shield or cover has been explained by Islamic scholars to mean, one, shield against immorality; two, shield against devilish activities; shield against other abnormal activities. Now, it is also going to be shield, for the society, just as you rightly said. So, Ramadan fast has been prescribed by Islam so that Muslims will have spiritual upliftment, just similar to other religions. And so that also Muslims will learn abstention. You abstain from eating, drinking, and marital relations for a particular period, meaning from dawn to sunset throughout the whole month of Ramadan. And not only that, a Muslim is expected to abstain from vulgar words and being a talkative somebody. Not only that, Muslim is expected to give out charity while a person is fasting, so that you care for others. Muslim is also expected to read and learn more of the glorious Quran, though we read the Quran every day, but in particular, in the month of Ramadan, in which the Quran was revealed, Muslims are expected to learn. That's why you see Muslims all around mosques where the Quran is being translated and explained further for them and all understanding. So Ramadan actually is a very important period. Not only that, the actions that a Muslim performs, righteous actions, will have more rewards than other months. So the significance of Ramadan fast is enormous. It has spiritual upliftment, then it also has moral upliftment, and also taking care of others, showing concern to others, giving out, so that you will not be a materialist. So you have to take care of others, even if it's small things. So these are part of the major significance of the month of Ramadan fast. Thank you very much.
Okay, how do you think that other faiths can relate with Ramadan fasts, especially now that we are finally drawing to a close?
Yes, just as I said earlier, the fasting in Islam is very similar to that of other faiths, particularly Judaism and the Christianity, as far as we know, because you abstain. Now, not only that, as I said, in Islam, the relationship of taking care of others, you give out to others, not only to Muslims, you give out to all that relates to you, to your neighbors, and then you control your tongue. Islam says that even if somebody approaches you for trouble, if you are fasting, tell that person that I am fasting. I am fasting. Meaning to say that I have no time for trouble. So you see that if Muslims have no time for trouble, other faiths should also learn from them, and that, okay, these people do not like trouble. We should also be troubleless people. And it's not only expected to be so in Ramadan. Even after Ramadan, a Muslim is expected to control his or her tongue, and also is expected to behave well in society, and also is expected to expend for others, because it is a kind of refresher course, let me call it like that. In the whole year, the month of Ramadan is there to refresh Muslims spiritually, and socially. So other faiths as well can learn from that. And as you behave well, you are, in other words, telling other people to behave well as well. Thank you very much.
What are the significance of Laylat al-Qadr, that's the night of decree, for
Yes, the Laylatul
someone
Qadr.
who is
Yes.
fasting?
Yes, yes, that's a very important question as well. Laylatul Qadr means the night of power. The Quran tells us that Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alf shahr, meaning to say that that night of power is worth 1,000 months, precisely about 82 or 83 years plus. Meaning to say that the reward that a Muslim gets if he or she performs righteous action in that night, his reward will be more than the reward of what he will get in 1,000 months that is not in the Laylatul Qadr. So that night, Muslims are expected to do more actions. I mean, prayers, recitation of the glorious Quran, glorifying Allah Almighty, and so on and so forth, so that he or she will attain that felicity. Not only that, you know that after the month of Ramadan, towards the end of the month of Ramadan, there is what is known as Zakatul Fitr. As I said earlier, showing concern to how others live. So Islam asks Muslims to, after having the discipline, after accruing the discipline in the month of Ramadan, then you also have to show concern to particularly the poor and the needy. So Islam prescribes that you give out food measure. Now this, there are two measures as you can see. Now this is known as Mudun Nabi. That is a small measure, precisely half a liter like that, or 1/3 of a mud. Here in Kebbi State, we use mud, and I know that in other places they use what they call tia, that is twice of that. Now, each Muslim is expected to give out 4 measures of this to the poor and the needy, so that, as you mentioned, the Eid al-Fitr, that is the day when we celebrate conclusion of the fasting of the month of Ramadan, the poor ones do not need to go and look for food on that day at least. So this one, you give out 4 measures of this. Now these 4 measures equals 1 measure of this, what is known as Sa and Nabi. So these are part of the measures that Islam takes to teach Muslims to be good citizens, to be citizens that take care of others, that Muslims that control their anger as they live with others. Thank you very much.
I mean, you've also highlighted the role of zakat and sadaqah,
yes.
You know, during a Ramadan period. Can you tell us the common mistakes that Muslims make, you know, during Ramadan period, and how can these mistakes be avoided?
That's big also. You see, the month of Ramadan, as we said earlier, is the month when rewards are being multiplied, actually. So it's not befitting for a Muslim to waste his or her time doing flimsy activities, the activities that will not be rewarded by God Almighty, like wasting one's time in other things that are not recommended in Ramadan, or like engaging in any kind of trouble, however small it is. It is not pardoned in Islam, actually, because the Prophet of Islam said that Robba Sa'imin, in many cases, a person who fasts will end up having nothing except the hunger that he or she spends in the day. How is that? Because he fasts, yet he or she engages in trouble, yet he or she engages in telling lies, yet he or she engages in backbiting, slandering others, and so on and so forth. All of those immoral activities reduce the reward of a person. If a person does not take care, now if he commits much and much immoral activities, it will end up tantamounting his fasting to have nothing except the hunger that he or she suffers in the daytime, While it's not the target. The target is for us to be disciplined members of the society, and also to be disciplined people to God Almighty in the first instance, then to other people that we relate to. Now.
All right. How does one who is sick, pregnant, or even traveling, manage the responsibilities that comes with Ramadan?
If I will have a reward, I will give you for these questions, because these questions are very good. Now, the fasting of the month of Ramadan, as mentioned in the Quran, is incumbent upon every Muslim, a major. But as you rightly pointed out, the sick person or the wayfarer are exempted, are allowed not to fast. Because if the doctor advises the sick person not to fast, then he or she should abide by the injunction of the doctor. Then later he or she should pay in lieu of what he or she didn't perform. Then also the wayfarer, actually, because like person who travels by car in some of our roads, or most of our roads, it is very harsh. And like in our area here, sometimes the temperature is about 44 degrees centigrade. I measured it. So when a person is traveling, you find things very difficult. So Islam allows a person not to pass, but to pay later. Then also the woman who suckles her baby, sometimes she needs to eat much so that she will have the milk that the baby will suckle. Then she is also permitted not to fast for that reason, but to pay later. Not only that, in case she cannot find somebody who will suckle the baby for her, if she can find somebody who will suckle the baby for her, then that is okay, she can fast. But in case the baby does not accept other woman's breast, then she should then fast. Or in case she does not have the money to pay for the second person, then she should also, since she's also permitted to fast and not to fast, then to pay later. And as I said earlier, the sick person, now that illness depends. There are sometimes some people that their own kind of illness is throughout the year. There is no time. Medically, they cannot fast. So those persons are completely exempted from fasting. Then also, there are some other people, like the people who attain some kind of degree of old age, that they cannot fast due to old age. They are also exempted from fasting. And these kind of people, the person who cannot medically fast throughout the year due to his own health conditions throughout the year, he or she is exempted altogether from fasting. And the old age person, in their own case, they need not to pay in lieu. But as for the previous one that we said, then they should pay in lieu at a later time. So these are some of the exemptions because Islam cares. Whenever there is a rule, then Islam will look for tangible excuses, and such people will Islam accept their excuses. Now.
How do you think that people who struggle with consistency in their prayer life use Ramadan to reconnect to their spirituality?
Yes, this Almighty decides to give he or she what he requests. So the month of Ramadan is actually a month when Muslims should engage in much prayers. You pray for yourself, you pray for your parents in particular, you pray for your relatives, you pray for your country, you pray for the leaders, so that God, guide them aright. You pray for the country, so that the country and the globe, the world in general, will live in peace and tranquility. So it's actually a month when prayers should be supplications. Muslims should engage more and more in those supplications. Thank you very much.
All right. What are the benefits of praying Taraweeh, and must it be done in a mosque?
Yes, now that Taraweeh means those units of supererogatory prayers that Muslims pray during Ramadan. It must not be prayed in mosques, but is recommended by Islamic scholars because you know some people are weak. You can pray it at home actually, but in order to strengthen one another, that is why it is prayed in the mosques. So the benefits, part of the benefits are that a person, according to a hadith, من قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه أو كما قال, means to say that whosoever observes those supererogatory prayers in Ramadan, his sins will be forgiven. So part of its merit is that sins are being forgiven for observing those units of prayers in Ramadan. It also teaches us to continue so doing even after Ramadan, because night prayers gives a person a very good connection to God Almighty. And also night prayers makes a person supplication to be answered. And also it teaches a person, to fear God Almighty. So those are part of the merits of those night prayers. And also when it unites Muslims. You see Muslims all over the country and all other countries in the whole world engage in those night prayers, which unite their thinking, unite their target, and not whatnot. Now.
Oh, fantastic, really. I mean, so much that has been said on this platform this morning. But just as a way of wrapping things up, I wanted to ask, how do you think that a Muslim would be able to balance his responsibility and work alongside the demands and activities of Ramadan? And as an imam in Birnin Kebbi, would you support a legislation where, for instance, on a Ramadan month, a Muslim stops work and they also stopped school so that, they're able to concentrate on the spirituality and the activities that come with Ramadan? And how do you think that can also foster religious tolerance across board?
Thank you very much. You see, in Ramadan, Muslims are not to go and lie down actually. But yet, authorities are to take care of their subjects. Now, as I said earlier, the temperature here is ranging around 40 and 44, as I measure it myself. Now, if you are here, you find that the weather is harsh for people to cope up. And as far as governments have right to do what they do in that case, not only in Ramadan, they are engaged in holidays for Ramadan. That is acceptable actually, and people are very happy for that. People are very happy for that. So it is very much welcome idea actually. So it is very much welcome idea actually.
Okay, what advice do you have for new converts, those who are experiencing Ramadan for the first time? What advice do you have for them in this regard?
Yes, new converts to Islam, as much as they are welcome to Islam, my advice to them is, because they are convinced that they follow Islamic faith, then they should also endure, because part of the teachings of fasting in Islam is to teach person to be hardworking, to be tolerant. And you know that they say that hardship makes a man, and there is no sweat without sweat. So if they can fast, then they should also follow it, and they should not relent effort as other Muslims are doing, because we used to teach them that in Islam there are 5 pillars The first pillar is that you believe that God is one and He is the only one that is to be worshipped, and Muhammad is, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the messenger of God. Then the second pillar is observance of 5 daily obligatory prayers. Then the third pillar is giving out podu, that is the major zakat, not the one that we have mentioned that is attached to Ramadan fast. That the major zakat that you give out 1/40 of your wealth for those who attend to that level. And then the first one is certification that there is no deity with worship except Allah, Muhammad is messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the prayers, daily prayers, then the giving out of the poor, that is the zakat, then fasting. Now you believe that you have to fast as Muslim fast, then going out on pilgrimage if you are able to do so. Now, if a person agrees that yes, I want to be a Muslim, and we tell him that okay, these are the pillars of Islam, you agree, he or she agrees, then you are welcome. So just as you are employed, I mean you are admitted in a university, then you know we have to abide by the rules and regulations of the university wherever you find yourself. So once you accept Islamic faith, and it is explained because Islam asks us to call people to Islam so that they will be convinced, not to be forced, but they agree to be Muslims out of conviction. So they are also convinced that they should fast in the month of Ramadan. So they are welcome, and they are being advised to stay away from eating and drinking, as all other Muslims stay away from eating and drinking, and they will not die, because not all other Muslims do not die for fasting. Then they will also not die actually by the grace of God.
Interesting. Ado Bayero, some few days ago, announced that Durbar festival that usually happen in Kano State just before will not happen again, owing to the fact that he is scared that there might be bloodshed. How do you react to that development?
Well, you see, as an imam, I will speak from Islamic point of view. If there is any manifestation of any conflict, then Islam advises us to stay away from anything that will lead to bloodshed or any unnecessary conflict. So to me, it is a welcome idea, and it's a very good foresight. We continue to pray God for His intervention in all our affairs.
All right, Dr. Ismail Chindo Gotomo, many thanks for your time. We truly appreciate your insights on the program this morning.
Thank you very much too. I really appreciate your questions and being engaged in your TV station.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We've been speaking with Dr. Ismail Chindo Gotomo. He is Imam Haliru Abdu Jumaat Mosque, Birnin Kebbi, lecturer Waziru Umaru, Federal Polytechnic Birnin Kebbi, giving us insights into the significance of the Ramadan that is coming to an end in a couple of days' time. Of course, that would herald the Eid al-Fitr celebrations. We are back shortly after this. Do stay with us. protection. The governor of the state may, with the sanctions of a resolution supported by 2/3 majority of the House of Assembly, request the president to issue a proclamation of the state of emergency in the state when there is an existence within the state of any situation specified in subsection 3C, D, and E. Joining us to expand more on this is Tony Wachuku, is a public affairs analyst. Good to have you, Tony. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tony, I mean, did you ever predict that this is going to come to fruition? That we're going to see Rivers State for the very first time being in this chaos, deep in this chaos. Not just that, the fact that we've seen the trajectory. The last 2 years has been, chaos upon chaos upon chaos. Now we're seeing a state of emergency in Rivers State. What's your reading of what's going on in Rivers right now?
Well, it's not just about Rivers, because I recall making a warning in several appearances I've made, both in radio and television programs. I warned about this authoritarianism against civil despots. And I want that this regime is in earnest, that's the national government leadership appear to be in desperation. So this is just a signal. Nothing in Rivers State has happened. Nothing has happened in Rivers State. That's just the truth. The truth is that the minister of the federal government and the state governor are having beefs. And then the both men differentials have not gotten to a crescendo where a president will make a unilateral a pronouncement. The truth is that I don't see the president appreciating democracy. This is a terrible signal, terrible warning to opposition parties. And I expect that all the opposition parties should have, by this morning, come together. Seriously, a party like the People's Democratic Party, the Labour Party, the NPP, those are parties that produced one governor or the other. And then for those other political parties that were able to have some people or some of their members elected to National Assembly should be at work right now, because there's a proviso in that section 305 also that stated that the National Assembly within 48 hours should approve or disapprove.
Yeah.
So this National Assembly have no business other than to disapprove the state of emergency declared in Rivers State, because it's a personal interest of the president.
Is it a personal interest?
I say it's some presidential, but it is his personal interest. Otherwise, why go ahead? What is that thing that has happened in Rivers State? Is there arms proliferation? Did anybody declare a republic in Rivers?
No, there's a bombing of pipeline. I mean, in fact, let me read this particular F. It says there is any other public danger which clearly constitutes a threat to existence of the federation. So the bombing of pipeline, you don't think it's a threat?
The bombing of pipeline, it is a serious economic threat to the federation.
Yes, so it's part of the reasons why.
Listen. The truth is this. The truth is that the government, federal government, knowing that this oil is our life economic opportunity, this is a produce that we trade for every day and we make money for which the country is run. The much the government would have done as a national government, knowing that oil on its own provides about 40 to 45% of our national income. The much they could do is to intensify the security system around our oil zones or locations. That's the much they could do. Hold on. There has been so many other oil crises. There has been different types of explosions when the late Yaradua was there. He did not declare a state of emergency in Rivers State. We have had several threats to our oil locations in River State, even under President Buhari, even under General Olusegun Obasanjo, the governments of River State, they did not stop it. The issue is this. Why declare state of emergency? Why shut down the House of Assembly? Why ask the governor and his deputy to proceed on illegitimate leave? Why is the minister for FCT still in service? Why is it? He's a super actor in the deal. He commenced this process. He brought this process to where it is. So why did the president exonerate his minister?
So do you think he might
The
be
person, it's not something any person can refute in this country. He's a generator. He's the one that, listen, if you ask me, this is just some team of filibusters who just felt they could do, and that is just a warning to opposition governors. If a president could unilaterally wake up in the morning and say he's doing this, and then allow the same minister that generated this heat, that caused the problem, is the question, is the federal government now accusing the state government and Amewole-led House of Assembly of being the sponsors of the bombing of part of the Nigerian oil pipe lines or refinery or whatever? I want to know. Is the government saying that the state government that did that, or the state legislature?
In that broadcast, he said that the bombing of pipeline, that the governor did not do anything about it.
If the governor did not do anything, is it enough to declare state of emergency in River State? And how do we know that the governor did not do anything? The issue is this: who is sponsoring who? Who is sponsoring who? The truth is that they have weighed the opportunities they have. And then, how are we sure? If there are bomb blasts, how are we sure that it's not sponsored? How are we sure it's not part of the minds that was laid to come to this result? So my position is simple. My position is that the National Assembly should reject the president's pronouncement in toto.
But do you even see the National Assembly doing that? Because we have a National Assembly
Assembly
that's
have
always
no choice.
they've always done what the president wanted.
This National Assembly, no matter how they benefit financially, they have no choice, because all of them are already on the tunnel of danger.
How?
Because the president can wake up in the morning and declare that you are no longer a member of the House of Reps or House of Senate by this pronouncement.
Oh, really?
Sure. By this pronouncement.
That's the danger you are looking at.
This president can wake up in the morning also and say that the social governor there cannot. Listen, this is a serious threat and danger to democracy. Our democracy has never been threatened, just like it was done, or we're experiencing the pronouncement that was made by the president as at yesterday. If the governor didn't brief you, why didn't you summon the governor? If you have your security intelligence report on the River State on the bombing of oil locations, why didn't you invite the governor? It's a simple thing. By phone call, you could get the governor. You can even discuss with the governor on phone. And as a president, you give your directive, or you give your suggestions. The oil business in Nigeria is not a state concern. It's a federal government concern. So, why didn't he contact the governor if the governor did not contact you? You have Minister for Petroleum, which is you, the president. You have Minister of State for Petroleum. So when they went to those sites, what assessment, what did they see? What did they return to you? You have a Director of State Security Intelligence, Services. You have National Intelligence Agency. You have everything security before you. You have the military secret or whatever operation department. So why didn't they go there and then get back to you? It's a federal concern. Oil business in this country is 100% federal concern. That is the truth. So I think that the governor and his deputy, peradventure, is one office, they should approach the Supreme Court immediately to know whether the president can unilaterally ascribe to himself the function as prescribed in Section 305. And I'm surprised that up to this morning that the Attorney General of the Federation have not said anything on the broadcast the president made yesterday.
Why would he say something? He's under the employ of the president.
He's under the employment of the president, but he's the Attorney General of the Federation. The president have invoked laws. From the background, who tutored the president on this statement, on the statement he made?
Do you think he would have taken the decision without consulting him?
That is what I'm saying now. The president had made a broadcast, so let the Attorney General, it's an issue of law. It is his business to defend the government's action.
That's what I'm saying.
So let him speak out.
He must have briefed the president.
He should know the
on
law
this
more
thing.
He should know the law more than the president.
That's what I'm saying.
Knowing the law more than the president, he should have also looked at the grounds, the ground norms of the law that this president mentioned in his broadcast, and then say, yes, fellow citizens, you listened to my guy yesterday. He has said this, he has said that. This is, he says, under the confinement. That you begin to break down these laws so that citizens can understand it. Because nobody is going to understand that thing. The president have the powers, but I want to tell you one thing. By the time next two monkeys run on the Nasarawa or what you call Zamfara gold mines, that governor will also be suspended. And
no, but I mean,
by the time there is this stone, what do you call these stones they use in constructions? By the time you hear 2-3 bombs there, the governor of the state will be suspended. So the meeting of governors of the oppositions, number one, should reject it. Number two, the National Assembly in its totality should converge as a matter of urgency. And then I don't know whether the president sent these issues to them before his actions.
Well, the Constitution says that the National Assembly would deliberate in order to approve, so that it's gazetted
That's
properly.
what I'm saying. They should not.
The
National Assembly should not tolerate this. It endangers our democracy. This pronouncement is a super threat to our democracy.
We would come back to this because I really want to know how you think that the National Assembly may reject it. You are calling for the rejection by the National Assembly, but it does look like the National Assembly is already in bed with this. But we'll talk about that later. But again, guys, we want to speak to our correspondent in Rivers State to basically tell us what the feeling like, the atmosphere like is in Rivers State right now as of this morning. Because again, we're hearing and seeing some photos and pictures of some persons say they are going to protest this morning and that the peace will not return to Rivers State until Simon Ifebara is reinstated. So we're back shortly after this. Stay with us.
With a population of about 36 million people, the Southeast is awash with stories. Every day on Southeast News, we tell the peculiar story of the Southeast and her people.
Our Southeast should be the Silicon Valley of Nigeria.
Their successes, achievements, and daily challenges. Do you have a Southeast story to share? Community achievements and challenges, completed and uncompleted projects, bad roads, water scarcity, erosion, flooding, insecurity, or even disagreements? Bring it on to Southeast News. On Southeast News, no story is too big or too small. Southeast News. Let's tell our story. Showing on Signature TV every weekday at 4 p.m. WAT, 1600 hours GMT.
We're back on the table, and we're speaking to Tony Nwachukwu, giving insights into what he thinks about the conundrum that we're facing in Rivers State. Now, the issues will be moved into the National Assembly, because the National Assembly is also going to approve whatever the president has done for that to finally be gazetted into the Federation. But I'm wondering, with what we have seen in the last few months, or even since May 29th, 2023, are we going to look at the National Assembly right now and say that they would practically reject what ENUGU did yesterday? Is it a possibility that they are going to reject it?
They don't have a choice than to reject it.
What if they don't?
No, listen, if you ask me why, they don't have a choice than to reject it because somebody commissioned an invisible study of what the Babangida Abacha regime did. And then also Olusegun Obasanjo's move towards a third term. The secret is that somebody wants to govern Nigeria wants to cause consequential amendments to Nigerian constitution, especially as it concerns office of the president. I'm just stating this because I know the feelings is everywhere that we are. And then the House of Assembly, the sacrificial lambs in the House of Assembly, and then the governor of the state are suspended.
No, you cannot say that the president is the one that's causing the chaos in Rivers State. I mean, you could say the minister, but the president, you can't say that the president, because the president is not involved.
This president has invited his minister and the governor in several occasions.
He alluded to it in the broadcast that he had not been able to solve the problem.
If your minister is choking the democratic foundation in his state, if your minister is a consequential principal in the crisis in Rivers State, why didn't you get him out of the way? Get the minister out of the way. Put him in your house to start dressing your bed. Employ him as a steward, because I've heard that minister say that he will serve the president in any capacity that he wants him to serve, because that minister is a problem. He is a consequential threat to democracy in that state.
He alluded to this in the broadcast that he has invited all parties to his office, and he has discussed it. And upon that, the issues have not been solved. So the only way
the president want to be solved. Can the president share power with anybody? What are we not talking about? Can the president share his responsibilities with anybody? Why would a president want a minister, a governor, to share his responsibilities with a minister? What's nobody talking? Or what's anybody talking about?
No, Bill, he's not directly involved.
He's involved.
He's not directly involved.
No, the president is involved. He cannot exempt himself from it. Because in 2-3 occasions, he has invited these two parties. Why is a minister commandeering influence and power as though he's the governor of the state? That minister used to be governor of that state. And we had presidents in his time. Did any president ask him to share power with any civilian on the street? Or any minister of the federal government? Don't you know what it means to be a governor? Or don't you know what it means to be a president? What's the president talking about? Why would you be advising a governor to share power with a minister?
But that's not the import of the meetings that they have.
So what is the issue? The issue is that myself and you watched Rivers State, and we saw some 23 House of Assembly members defect from the PDP, the platform on which they were elected. We saw that. And then the 23 said that this man is our leader. They did not shut their mouth. They said, Wike, that minister is their leader. Can you share your 2 hands with your wife? Can you cut any of your hands for your child? There are things we don't respect. That man is a governor. That Fubara is the executive governor of Rivers State. Why is anybody asking him to share power? This incident in Rivers State took place in Enugu State. The Jim Okwimodo and Chimaroke era. At the end of the day, did President Obasanjo direct Chimaroke to share power with Jim Obodo? Did he? He did not.
Well, there was no state of emergency in Enugu at the time.
That's what I'm saying, that because President Obasanjo clearly understands and knows the meaning of an executive office of a governor. Because when you go through the Constitution, the president and the governors share almost neck-to-neck power. Just in some cases, that like this section 305. My question is, did Obasanjo direct Chimaroke to share power with Senator Jim Obodo? No, is the answer. So why would Mike share power with a sitting governor in Rivers State? Why didn't the president call his minister and say, that place, stay away, forget everything there. When election comes, we'll find our way in. That's the best thing to do. So this is a signal to the 36 governors. I heard somebody also calling their delegates that it will be their turn to experience this suspension. That is the day that is going on in the country. And I've told you where these things are. There is a serious grand plan to review and then cause consequential changes on the tenure clause. Somebody wants that tenure clause in the Constitution to read that as long as you are eligible, and then the people want you, that you can contest the election. That is the truth. So what the president has done, the National Assembly, no matter how lobbied, no matter how lobbied, this is the only time they have to save democracy in Nigeria. It is the business of them. They must save democracy. NUST must. If they don't, all of them will see the consequences of not saving democracy.
All right, well, let's go on a short break. We'll be right back after this. Let's see if we can connect to a correspondent in Rivers, in Abuja rather. All right, good to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Welcome back. This is Signature TV, and we have live with us this morning via the phone a correspondent from Abuja. Good to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Give us an update from your end, from what's going on in Abuja.
Well, the situation in Abuja is everywhere is calm, but it was a very shock to the resident of Abuja that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will declare a state of emergency in Rivers State. It came as a shock to a lot of Nigerians because the political crisis in Rivers State should have been resolved by the President himself instead of declaring a state of emergency in the state. So the people were like, they have different opinions, so they acted differently. Some were saying the President should have and make sure that the peace, there should be a peace in Rivers State. But others were saying for the president to have declared state of emergency in Rivers State, that was the best situation he could. But for a lot of Nigerians, the president is #1 citizen in Nigeria, and he has the authority to do and undo. So they were feeling that for him to have resolved this issue, he should have talked to, or if possible, he should have suspended the Minister of FCT, which is the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, because he is the mastermind that is making sure that the legislators in Rivers State are going contrary to the governor of the state directive. So for him to have declared state of emergency for 6 months in that state, they think it was not necessary.
So, what about the constitutional provisions that the president is saying, the 305? He says that he did that because of the peace of the state. And of course, you know that the bombing of pipeline is an economic sabotage. And he also says that the governor did not do anything around the bombing. This threat has been on for some time now. The job people saying that they are going to go to the creeks if Fubara is impeached. So some of them stating that the president really doesn't have the right. Do you really think that the president doesn't have the right to at least keep the peace, at least for the moment?
Well, I think the president has the right to keep peace in that state. But the president was quoting 305 Constitution 305 because according to the president, there are some elements of insecurity in that state, like the bombing of the pipeline that you have said. But this is not the first time that they are bombing pipeline in that state. But if you recall, since the coming of similar Fubara for over 2 years now, that man has not had peace in that state. So they have been up and down. The legislators have been giving issue and the rest. But now let me link it to the incident that happened in Lagos State. You know, the state assembly impeached or removed the speaker, Mudasiro Obasa, and they said Miranda would be the next, or was the next speaker, which he did that for some days. But the president, in his authority, feels that the party did not try, whereby he wants Obasa back as the speaker. But what did he do? He said some governors that they should resolve that issue, which is a party issue, and the issue was resolved. And when the legislator feels that they are not comfortable, he invited all of them to the villa, and they have a closed door meeting for hours. And at the end of the day, all of them laughed and they went peacefully. And you can see today that there is peace and harmony in Lagos State. That should have been the best thing that the president would have done. Call these people to Abuja, the 27 lawmakers, call the governor, call Wike. They should have a closed door meeting for hours. They should discuss it. What is the problem? What is the way forward? So that the people of Rivers State will enjoy the dividend of democracy. I think that should be the thing that the president will have done instead of declaring state of emergency in that state.
Asiru Usman, many thanks for your input. We truly appreciate you. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in Rivers, and then, of course, the reactions from Abuja in due course. Thank you once again. We truly appreciate your input.
Thank you for having me, and have a nice day.
All right. That was Nasir Usman all the way from Abuja, giving us an insight into what's going on in Abuja as it relates to Rivers State. I mean, quite an interesting discourse reacting to these issues, Tony.
Yes, it's a quite an interesting discourse. And then in the case of Rivers State, I don't think the president is skeptical about having peace in Rivers State because permit me to state that most probably the president is love-based minister. He's hatchet man. He's not in doubt. Otherwise, I don't know why why he has to exonerate Wike for the mess in Rivers State. That's just the truth. Whatever is in Rivers, for whatever reason, I think the National Assembly should not. They should wait in. They should wait in because myself and you have been in this country and see the National Assembly take up legislative businesses of some states in Nigeria. So why did that National Assembly, why did they close an eye? Why didn't they take up the legislative business in Rivers State so that peace can reign? Is it because the president, Man Friday, may not feel happy or may not value their whatever? So when you look at the factors that has come into this Rivers State issue, I don't think the president and the National Assembly at any time, whether they met to discuss Rivers State, the National Assembly leader or leadership, the chairman of the National Assembly and his vice otherwise, I don't think that is the speaker and the Senate president and the president ever discussed Rivers State. So the president will lose nothing by entering a broadcast also and say that the state of emergency in Rivers State is hereby called off.
Right, but again,
And then, no, hold on. Ask the governor to go back to his business, to his seat of power. Call it off. Invite the governor, invite his deputy, invite the Senate president, invite the Speaker House of Reps, and then meet with them, and then the worst that could happen in Rivers State for peace to reign is for the National Assembly to take over the legislative business of Rivers State. Why didn't he see that option? That is the only way you could have peace in Rivers State if the parties are not agreeing, not to remove the governor. To remove the governor has a dire consequences. You say you suspend the House of Assembly, you suspend the governor at the same time, and the actual guilt, who is the Minister for Federal Capital, is now walking the street free. And next he will call the media and ask how many than they. Where did they?
Yeah, but again, politics is all about compromise. Do you think in all of these, Fubara should have at some point compromised? Like,
the
just, you know,
is, what is the issue? What is it? What is that issue that anybody wants Fubara to compromise?
Well, these days it's all about, I mean, it's politics.
No,
and concessions. Concessions must be given.
Concessions
for you to
what?
For you to still keep your seat. That's in politics.
Concessions.
No, hold on,
what?
hold on. That's in politics that Wike is playing. Play it, because I'm sure that Wike will be telling the president about 2027. Rivers is a very, very huge state in terms of resources and, of course, the number of voters, the voter number. Then wouldn't you think that Fubara would have also done the same thing and gone to cut the deal with the president?
To make some proposal to the president. It's the president that will call Fubara and sit him down.
No, I mean,
you invite a governor and discuss with him.
No matter how you want to look at it, really.
You invite a governor and discuss with him.
No matter how you want to look at it, you could, in one way or another, you know, feel. You
want the governor to go to the president and say, "Don't bother about Rivers, I'll deliver it to you."
Well, to some extent, it's politics. If you, I mean, what is you know, the Wike even telling the president first. But before you get into that, let's talk to Williams from Port Harcourt. He is our correspondent in Port Harcourt. Williams, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. We've woken up to...
Okay, thank you very much. Very good morning.
Thank you so much. We've woken up to this interesting story. How is River State waking up to this news just a few hours after the declaration of state of emergency?
Okay, it took most people at a shock, if you ask me. Because after the declaration, we quickly took down the street. Immediately after the president finished, people started moving, closing their businesses, their shops, rushing back home because they are not sure of what will happen next. So we took to the street. We drove down to government house. When we got there, the whole place was filled with military presence. Bands, we are sighted. We are all over the places. Movement was initially stalled. No coming in, no moving out at some point, because they are trying to check for a reason of once you leave the premises with government vehicle or property. So, but the tension was not that much just within the government house. There was a rumor that the governor was held captive or something, or against his will. Different reports, but at that point, this immediately after the program, this should be around 8 in the evening. So we waited there. At some point, they relaxed the security presence. I was there myself when the military themselves start moving, driving off the government house, just to leave the place with the normal security that is attached to the government house. Then we are still there. They will leave almost 12 midnight when they released the press release that was signed by the governor. So that clears the rumor that was going on that the governor was actually held captive against his will. So at that point, when the press release was signed, we start leaving. So when we drove down, that should be to every area was quiet. There is no presence of military blockage, nothing. So every area was calm. Then the next tension now, because that yesterday now we thought because it was a kind of immediate takeover by the administrator. So we expected that the new administrator would take over. They make some maybe rule of engagement or orders or so. Everybody was anxious, but he never came to take over. There was no speech from him. There was no, the president was not cited as well yesterday. Up to this hour, we are still waiting to hear from him. The government house is still working from the report you gathered. No military presence cited, but people are scared to move around because the street is equally quiet because we don't know what will happen next. If there will be a coffee or restriction of movement, nobody knows yet because there is conflicting opinion about the emergency declared that the president don't have the right, the constitutional mandate to actually suspend an elected governor. So everywhere is just in between and health. This is because we are waiting for the new administrator to give orders, maybe on how, so that the people will know what to do. So for now, that's just the situation. Everywhere is calm, but movement is not that much. Vehicle is not that much in the street. Everywhere is calm, but there is no military blockage, no harassment. Everywhere is just normal. While we wait for the administrator to give maybe any further directive or orders.
One of the reasons why people think that the president took this bold step to suspend the government of Rivers State is because of the pipeline that was bombed. I think I said 2 or 3 of the pipelines that were bombed in 2 different places. Can you talk us through that process? Because it's amount to economic sabotage. And because of that, the president says, look, I can't watch you people do these things. And because of that, he now went on to suspend both parties, which is the Fubara and, of course, the House of Assembly. And many people think that it's a neutral thing to do as the president of the country. What do you think?
No. Most of the relevant people who
Hello, William.
Emergency assistance. Because despite the political crisis, the state is relatively peaceful.
Hello, Williams.
Will be released. Nobody harassed the assembly members. Nobody tried to intimidate them or no violence at all. So there is no need for this emergency. Pipeline has been, we have been having that pipeline vandalization and bombing of all of that. No emergency has been declared. This very one just took place. The same thing. The police have given a statement. They are investigating it to know if it's actually linked to political motivated or not. And the governor, from what we gathered, has called a meeting with the relevant security. The governor is not the one directing the military per se. So he's doing his bit. So before we know it, they concluded that it was actually linked to what is happening in the state. The governor did not make any, did not disown the militants when they came out to threaten vandalization of and all of that. We know what politics is. We know the people, the actors in this whole thing. We know it can go either way. Like what we experienced on Saturday at Abalama was part of the flow, according to what people are saying, because there was a security threat. But this other side of the political what is it called? They went ahead with their own program, which the governor and the leaders of this other Calabari extraction, the chiefs, talked to the youth, then the IYC youth to step down on their own, which they did because they don't want that to escalate any other further. So the governor was actually treading the path of peace right from when the Supreme Court gave out their judgment. So no one should see that reason of declaring this state of emergency. Yes.
Right. But now, as the journalist who has followed this story from when it started up until this moment, do you think that the president was right with suspending both parties? Some persons also think that the minister of the FCT should have been also suspended from his position.
Exactly the point. Exactly the point. Even the press release by the government, the Governor Fubara, they stated it, the key actor in the whole political crisis happened to be the FCT minister, but nothing, all the brokers, nothing was required, nothing. It was not mentioned in any how, in any way in the whole brokers. And the brokers was a bit biased. We are trying to be objective about it because all the blame was shifted to the governor, which happened to be like it's a kind of a pointer. So the suspension is not really okay by all parties except maybe the people that maybe might benefit from it, because most of the people condemn it. There is no need. You don't have to suspend the governor. If you only disable them, maybe they will just like a rubber stamp, but they will still remain as the governor. Then they will still remain as the legislature, but they can't function. While the administrator can run the administration, not to collapse, to suspend the governor and the elected as members. So that is not supported at all.
All right. I want to say a very big thank you to you. We would continue following up on this development. Of course, with this, there's anything that develops, we also love to know. But giving you your insight, do you feel that this bombing of the pipeline would continue? Because there were threats. There were threats that they were made.
Because I don't know what is going on next. We are just reporting what the development we see, the rumor we gathered and stuff. But after that very one that the governor make reference to, another one happened close to, I think, Bayelsa and Biama. So we don't know what will happen next. Because the detectors has come out to make some statements. It's part of the politics to see if the president can take this other way around, but he still insists on going the extreme, because this is the extreme by declaring the state of emergency. So we don't know if this action will further escalate the crisis or not. But like this, I can't see if it will continue.
All right, our fingers crossed. Williams, many thanks for your time. We truly appreciate your insight. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So some other school of thought, Tony Wachuku. I mean, we were saying that, I mean, Fubara should have found a way around giving some political concessions, you know, meeting with even the speaker at least, you know, doing some political discussions. I mean, it's politics. You just have to play it. You are in that space right now. You are the governor. Whether you are meeting with the president or you are meeting with the State House of Assembly members, a concession has to be given because it's a totally different ballgame right now. So now, do you feel that Fubara should have done something more than what he did throughout?
Why this year is anybody expecting the governor to share the economy of Rivers State with one individual? It's an issue. Why at this stage, a man who governed Rivers State for 8 years got everything he required? This same Fubra was at the financial department of his government and headed it, and then gave him every support, did everything he wants him to do, and then he handed over to him for trust, and now you want the same process to continue, where this man will be outside as a minister, and then at the same time be taking 2/3 of Rivers State revenue. I don't know who will do that. That is the problem. The problem is Rivers State money. There's nothing else. It's Rivers State money. And why would the governor share money with you? Why would the governor share state fund with you? It's a question. What concessions is anybody looking for? Is it not concession of the people's wealth? You collect taxes from people, you get FAC revenue, you go and share it with one man. I also man say Habawa. That should be history. That should be history. Is Wike sharing money with anybody in Ministry of in the FCT ministry? If he's sharing, let him say that, well, I'm sharing money, FCT money with so persons. So that is the reason why I want River State money to be shared with me. So who is he sharing money with?
Right. I mean, it's...
Who is he sharing money with?
All right. We would go on a short break. We'll be right back after this. Do stay with us.
With a population of about 36 million people, the Southeast is awash with stories. Every day on Southeast News, we tell the peculiar story of the Southeast and her people.
Our Southeast should be the Silicon Valley of Nigeria.
Their successes, achievements, and daily challenges. Do you have a Southeast story to share? Community achievements and challenges, completed and uncompleted projects, bad roads, water scarcity, erosion, flooding, insecurity, or even disagreements? Bring it on to Southeast News. On Southeast News, no story is too big or too small. Southeast News. Let's tell our story. Showing on Signature TV every weekday at 4 p.m. WAT, 1600 hours GMT.
Welcome back. This is the morning show here on Signature TV. So lately, a lot of people have been speaking about democracy. Of course, by the books, democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. In fact, a kindergarten, pupil can actually, say that. But then again, in practice in Nigeria, is it what is happening? Anyways, we have Chief Ben Etiaba, chartered accountant and leadership expert, who would give us an insight into this latest developments. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. It's a delight to be in your studio once again this morning.
Fantastic. So, democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Is that what we're practicing in Nigeria as of this moment?
Of course not. Not just we're not practicing it in Nigeria. Also, in most African countries, it's not happening. I don't know what it is about a black person that makes it difficult to do the right thing and very easy to do the wrong ones. If you have an election and the right result is not announced, that can't be democracy, because you're relying on the might of whoever does the announcing rather than the prevalent power of the voters. So why get people to stand in the rain, sun, to do for hours to do the voting, and at the end of the day you choose to announce whatever you want. So obviously we're talking about Professor Humphrey Mosu this morning. He tried to get it right. The power against him overpowered him, and here we are back to square one. It's very sad for somebody like me to see this, because I want a Nigeria that will work, because the moment we begin to choose our leaders, then things can begin to work.
In practicing democracy, you want to take a look at other countries, how they practiced it, how they came on to this point. Do you think we are still young in terms of this practice of democracy? I mean, if you were 26 years into it, you would have thought that a 26 years old person isn't a young person. But if you talk about democracy, I mean, the countries like the UK, the US, did they start like this? At 26 years into their democracy, was it like this? Or are we moving in the right direction?
If you read your history very well, you'll find that the Western democracies never had it like this at all. And by the way, it's not 26 years for us. We've been at this since 1960. We failed within the first 6 years of it, and it took the Civil War, another 9 years after the Civil War, in 1979 for us to have a second go, second bite at the apple. Once again, we failed within 5 or so years of that. Various experiments under the military, under Babangida, the start and stop. Nobody believed it was going to work. In 1999, when eventually General Abubakar had to hand over power, serious politicians, serious-minded Nigerians didn't think it was going to work because they had had enough of it, of the false dawns after Abiola won, and it was annulled. So the serious minds didn't bother to be a part of it, and the people that came out in 1999 really were political businessmen who have seized the space till today.
So, you know, so many persons have also said that, well, democracy really, is it the best form of government, really? I mean, there might be other types of style of governance that we can practice that is peculiar to us.